Flipping through the pages, you stumble on the Nen Show Podcast. Hello and welcome. I am your host, Craftsdwarf, and this is my co-host, Mathwiz.
Yep, that's me.
Back again with more One Piece, getting into the Grand Line, getting into the weird islands and stuff. Mathwiz, did you have any comments to respond to?
Yes. I had a few. There was one. My apologies, my sincerest apologies to Crappy HR for not giving them the proper credit when I talked about the one character. So yeah, there's your shout out, Crappy HR. The other one was now I can't find it. It was a comment by 731 Freeman.
Yes, he's left a few comments, but I haven't gotten around to him. But go on.
Yeah, asking about the art style, which I guess has been a recurring question in the last couple of comment sections, and I just haven't.
He doesn't like the art style at all, and so I don't know. What do you like about the art?
Well, I like the art because it's very goofy, which I think I've said before. I don't know if it's necessarily like what's the word, anatomically correct at times.
Yeah, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of Oda's characters have big foreheads, but I don't know. That's just kind of the charm of it, I guess. Is it's just I don't know what it is. Like, I'm not big into like critiquing art. Like I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever really said like, oh, Kubo or Kishimoto has like my favorite art so far. Like I'm not really. I don't know how much of like.
I think that like we both agree that we like Kubo's art better than Kishimoto's. I think. But
even then, I don't really know how to go about like
style. So well, yeah, he said even be as subjective as you want. So
yeah, I wouldn't even know how to really go about comparing that. Like I guess maybe I don't know. Like maybe Oda's is like a less realistic sort of like character design. Like it's less focused on making the character. I don't know what it is.
I guess to give my thoughts, because I definitely love the art style, and I've liked it for years. Like, I just like the character designs, like I was talking about Usopp's a few episodes ago, and, like, even, like, it's just, even just his, like, his outfit, he looks like a dude who's, like, a handyman, and he kind of is. He builds, he fixes his ship, he deals with gadgets and stuff, you know, but, I guess as to, like, I also think Oda is just a good artist on a technical level. Like, his page layouts are never messy. It's, you could always tell exactly what's going on, even if weird shit is happening. The expressions, like, you know exactly what this character's feeling, even, like, yeah, he does goofy expressions, but, like, thinking back to, like, a lot of Nami's, especially in Arlong Park, are just, like, they're more subtle. Like, he's even good at doing, like, smaller emotions, so to speak. Like, she'll have just little face movements, and you get what she's feeling, even if it's not exaggerated in a goofy way, but he could do the exaggerated ones, too. But, and also, I guess, like, if you don't mind spoilers, watch Mr. Morge's video on the exaggerated world of One Piece. I think it was called something like that. It does have spoilers for the series. And the one thing he doesn't mention in that video, well, because what he talks about in that video is how, like, or I think he talked about it in the video, is, like, it's like a modern romance, it's a modern adventure, and, like, one of the things I think is neat about it is, like, because a lot of, like, classic adventure ideas are kind of, like, rote nowadays. Like, in Odyssey or Iliad, maybe I'm mixing them up, but it's like, oh, you know, Gorgons and Sirens. It's like, yeah, we've seen those before. So, like, with One Piece, its idea of adventure is, like, Dinosaur Island and, fucking giant goldfish. Like, it's gotta be silly, because otherwise we've seen it before. And I also like how, because the art does change over time, but, like, and the characters get goofier. Like, if you think it's goofy now, like, I mean, like, think about, like, I guess to get ahead in discussion about Wapol. He's like fatter, he's like metal, he loses his head at one point, he eats his body. Like, things are getting weirder now, compared to how they were in the East Blue. Like, they're getting even more strange and cartoony as we're getting deeper into the Grand Line, a surreal, unusual setting where things aren't supposed to be normal, and the art's going to change more to reflect that. So, as the character designs become even more exaggerated. So, I like that the art and design philosophy changes to suit the world that it's that it's evoking. Like, the characters are as weird as the world. Like, I like that. So, but I also, like, it's fine to not like the art of One Piece. It's a very, you know, it's fine to like or dislike anything for personal reasons. If you can't get into it because of the art, you know, that's fine. Like, if you want to keep reading along with us, great. If you want to drop the manga, just hear us discuss it, that's fine too, you know? As long as you're not, like, saying the art is bad because you don't like it. That's where I'm like, okay, hold on. Like, the art works for the story. It's not bad. So, but even if you don't like it, you know, and if you're, like, technically proficient as an artist, then maybe you could explain why it's bad, but I would expect you to do so. So that's my overall thoughts on the art. So, I just talked a lot. Speaking of disagreeing, Sir Bacon said my points were weird and wrong without explaining why my points were weird and wrong. And I'm like, it's fine to disagree with me. I'm just saying, like, explain why. Don't just say I'm wrong and leave it at that. Like, break down my points and explain why I'm wrong. And use evidence from the story to counteract my points. I'm not saying, like, Dragon doesn't have... Because two people are like, oh no, people think he has a wind power, not weather powers. I've heard both, okay? I've been in this fandom for a while. I've heard a lot of shit. Like, that's the thing, is I'm arguing about shit that no one thinks anymore. Just because it's been in my mind for fucking over a decade. But, like, I don't think Dragon didn't... Even if he does have powers, I don't think he did the things people... The evidence is not there in the manga to support it. I'm not saying he doesn't have powers, I'm just saying that people are wildly extrapolating things from what's basically nothing, and I disagree with that. So, did you have any more questions? I have one more. Or did you have anything to say about the wind power thing?
Nope, I had nothing to say about that, because I don't particularly care about theories.
Yeah,
if
it's
it'll
a
be
theory,
in the story,
exactly.
I'll find out later. But there was one more comment directed, well, I guess somewhat at me, because I obviously haven't read One Piece, from Kuridi Knight asking... What do I think Sanji's future role in character will be? I guess this was tied into, like, the whole strength thing. And I don't know. So there you go. Did Discord cut me out? Discord cut me out. God dang it.
Did you cut out for like a minute or so?
Well, I answered the question, so.
Audacity picked it up. So okay.
Basically, I don't know what Sanji's role is gonna be, and I don't really care to guess.
Okay.
I'd
That's
rather
fine.
just find out. Like, I don't know. I don't really have any expectations.
Okay. Anyway, my last question. Heodor is wondering if maybe Zoro doesn't fight women, you know, because of Oda's sensibilities. And, like, maybe, but it also kind of doesn't matter. Like, because, sure, even if the author does happen to feel that way, like, obviously what's most important is that how he handles it in the story. And I think someone even pointed out to him that, like, there are other instances of female characters getting, like, hurt, but not exactly, like, they don't, I guess in general, yeah, they don't take as much damage as the guy, like, just Luffy versus Krieg, you know, he takes, he gets pretty hurt, but I don't, like, there are moments when female characters do get hurt, but not quite to that level, I would say, but, I don't know, do you remember in Bleach or Naruto, where female characters really got hurt?
Well, I know, like, Sakura had her moment where she got pretty beaten up.
She got, punched a bit, during the sound, in the Forest of Death. And Bleach has had, female characters, like, die and get cut, but not really...
Well, then again, there's also that one part where Tsunade got, like, cut in half, but that was off screen. Yeah,
yes.
But,
like,
I mean, still
the
it
most
was
brutal
there.
shit always happens to the men on screen. Like, there were some deaths, like, I remember one dude getting fucking burnt, a couple dudes getting turned to skeletons in the Blood War, or fucking Sasuke losing his chest against Killer Bee. Like, that shit doesn't happen to girls usually. And I would argue that, like, Bleach and One Piece especially do handle their female characters really well, but even then they don't bully them. Though I've also been reading Magi recently, and there was one scene that stuck out to me, because it was a character who she had stolen children and used them as pirates, and when she got back to the town, she got fucking brutalized, like, and she wasn't, like, an ugly woman either, like, there was one where her hair was pulling, you can kind of see the hair getting ripped off of her head, and I was like, so it's like this one manga, and the author is a female, which I thought was interesting, because you have, like, a female author being more brutal to the female villain character than these male authors in these other stories, and I thought that was interesting to compare in light of this question, because I just happened to have been reading Magi, so, I don't know, maybe it's, because it also might be a magazine thing, maybe Jump I don't know, what Jump manga have been brutal to women. I can't think of any off the top of my head. So, like, there's so many, like, it could be an editor, it could be, you know, the author's personal sensibilities, and there's so many reasons it could be the way it is, you know? And I do think, like, the fact that Oda is exploring it through, like, because you see Sanji defend Kureha, you know, he's like, oh, you know, he won't let a woman get hurt. And then that's like the complete opposite of Zoro. So no wonder they're in a rivalry. Like it started because they were arguing over Nami. Like, so he's exploring, if it is his sensibilities or not, he's exploring it through the characters in the story, which I think is the best we could ask for, because we get more to talk about from the story. And that was my last question. I'm guessing you were done too?
Yep.
I heard you clear your throat, and then Discord does not like you today.
Yes, I'm done.
Okay. Okay, so finally getting into the discussion. Back on the ocean after Whiskey Peak, Vivi's part of the group now. She's like, everyone, we gotta, the Grand Line's dangerous, and also we gotta be careful. And everyone's like, we don't give a fuck, because it's the Straw Hats. Of course they don't give a fuck. And we get a bit more sailing before they finally land on Little Garden, which is a prehistoric island with all the dinosaurs. I don't know, what did you think about the crew, like, sort of, like, organically deciding what they're going to do based on their characters? Like, I thought it was cool. Or just, did you have any thoughts about this opening bit in general? Or...
I mean, no, it's fine setting up the arc.
Yeah, well, yeah, because it is set up, but like, because I only just realized it now, but like, Vivi was just told not to be too much of a hard ass because she's so focused on the seriousness of their situation, so she decides to relax by going along with Luffy on the adventure. And then Zoro and Sanji, like, Zoro's just like, I want to take a walk. And Sanji's like, hey, bring back food. And then they start fighting. They just naturally devolve into fucking fighting and arguing. And then Usopp and Nami are, of course, are too cowardly. I love the bit where Usopp's like, where they both like gasp, and then Usopp says, you're useless. And Nami says, well, you're the same. Like, they're both so weak. It's funny. Just funny. I love the character interaction.
But no, yeah, I do like that aspect of it.
So anyway, 2 dinosaurs get decapitated. Like within 1, 2, 3, 4 pages of each other. Which I guess is a good way to point, to go, hey look, these 2 giants are equal, in case you were wondering. But yeah, Brogy meets Usopp and Nami, who lose their fucking shit, because he's a big giant, obviously he means trouble. And then, whereas Luffy is like, oh cool, a giant, fuck yeah. And we get just a bit more explanations about the island. It takes a year for the log pose to set.
I love how when Luffy meets that one dinosaur, he's just like, oh, don't worry, this one just eats grass, I'm fine. And then it just eats Luffy.
I also love even before that, like where... because Vivi's like, oh my god, a dinosaur, and she's got like a shocked expression, like her eyes are kind of white a bit, and then the next panel is just like Luffy on the dinosaur. He's like, cool, like Luffy is so good. And so anyway, the conversation with the giant sort of sets up the idea of the arc being honor, and the two, like, they don't even remember why they're fighting. They've just decided that, like, but since it was something that they were willing to stake their lives on, that they're going to live by that and fight no matter what. So even though they've been fighting for 100 years to the death with no resolution.
Yeah, I like how Vivi's like, what was the dispute about in the first place? And Luffy's like, quiet, that doesn't matter.
And Luffy like watches the fight and he's just like, too much, too big, like he's just overwhelmed. It's good. Luffy's good. Anyway, then we get a brief cut to Mr. 3, sort of introducing this arc's antagonist. They're just chilling. And then we get a bit of a character beat for Usopp, where he sort of like recontextualizes his goal, or he's like able to put it into words in a different way. Like he sees, this is what I want to be, because these guys are so, like how he puts it is they have a flag on their chest that they can't have torn off no matter what. Their honor, like they will fight and die for their pride, pretty much. And he's inspired by that. Well, I also love the gag where he's like, I want to be like these guys, and Nami's like, so you want to be a giant? Well, and the best part is later he's explaining it to Brogy, and he's like, so you want to be a giant? And Nami's laughing at Usopp, and it's just so good because of course she's laughing. Oh man. Oh yeah, and I didn't notice until rereading it, but Usopp connects the honor to treasure, like, so that's an older idea. Also, I guess a little thing is that how does your translation spell Elbaf, the giant island that they're talking about?
It's spelled like Elbaf with like B-A-P-H.
A PH or an F?
PH.
Okay, yeah, because it's supposed to be Fable backwards.
Oh.
So it should be an F, but oh well. It's not a major thing. It's pretty minor, but So anyway, after a bit more discussing about like the Elbaphian honor and the whole situation, Dory drinks the ale that he got from Brogy, who Brogy got from the Straw Hats, and it explodes. And Brogy's obviously pissed off, understandably, or no, Dory rather. I always mix them up. Fuck. So I guess what did you think about Luffy versus Dory?
It was a fight.
Yeah, I don't know. Because Dory's, like, strong, but he's also, like, kind of unable to hurt Luffy. Like, he stomps him into the ground, but Luffy's rubber. He's fine. And he can only really beat him by pinning him down with the giant, skeleton. But I like how, like, once Luffy, like, knocks Dory down, he's, like, he's Luffy. He knows the Straw Hats. He saw the giants fight, so he knows about their honor code. So it's, like, there's no way anyone that should be on the island spiked the ale and turned it into a bomb. So he's just like, with no like evidence, he just his instinct and intuition, like he's able to tell like someone else is on the island. Oh.
Yeah, it's weird that Luffy's the one figuring out the mystery. Like Luffy,
exactly. That's what's amazing about it.
Not blunt, but what's the word? Ignorant, maybe.
He's direct.
But the one who, like, doesn't pick up anything, he's like, someone's on this island.
Yeah, but it's like, of course, like, knowing how Luffy operates, of course it makes sense in his brain why he would think that. And he just happens to be right. Like, yeah, there's someone else on the island. And, he doesn't, like a smarter character would be able to connect that back to, bombs. What if that was Mr. Five? What if he followed us? That's within, if he's not dead, that's within possibility. And of course, that's he's there. Mr. Five's back. And, now he's the lower tiered subordinate, to Mr. Three. Since, Mr. Three's like, well, you're useful, even though you're a fuck up. And he's sort of explaining their plan to capture Dory and Brogy, who have the highest bounties that we've seen in the series. Their former bounties their current bounties are even higher than Crocodile's bounty, or former bounty rather. Because Crocodile was like 80, and these two are 100 each. So yeah, they're scheming. The bad guys are doing their schemy things, and the volcano goes off again. So Dory and Brogy return to fight. Oh yeah, and you gave me this panel earlier, because it was because Usopp and Nami realized they can't go back to the ship. But, so they decided to head to the other giant's place. But, Usopp's like, even if someday I lose everything and face death alone on a desert isle, I'll be proud of the way I lived and say, I'm Usopp, brave warrior of the sea. And you're like, because you've been freaking out about the foreshadowing, a little bit. Because it's like, I guess I planted the idea, or the idea was planted that anything could be foreshadowing.
Well, I mean, in any story ever, anything could be foreshadowing. But, like, this just feels very, like... Not that I really think that Oda would kill Usopp, but this this feels very like possible.
Yeah, no, it's funny.
So for the guy who wanted me to speculate on Sanji's character, I speculated on Usopp's character instead.
He's going to die. That's your speculation.
Also, yeah, not Usopp. Luffy getting trapped under the skeleton. I'm like, oh wait, I see what you're doing here, Oda. I see what you're doing. Yeah. You're keeping Luffy sidelined for a bit.
Yeah, because, as usual, because it's Luffy. He's a man of action. He's got to move, so he's got to be stopped in order for the rest of the story to work. But of course, Luffy disagrees with Dory's decision to fight. Because it's sure honor, but like is it fair? And I really like how, like, well, because it gets, like, Brogy mentions it later, but it's, like, the reason why he fought, and, because it's, like, Dory decided to die, so of course he's going to honor that, so they both, continue to stick by their flags, no matter what, even when some skeevy shit is going on, so, but I guess we'll talk about... There's another aspect to that I want to mention later towards the end.
I do think it is also sort of interesting, how you have Luffy, like, divine protection. What's that got to do with anything? So, like, whereas in the previous stretch in Logtown, you kind of had what was sort of speculated by the characters in universe as, like, divine intervention to allow Luffy to escape, but here he is, like, rejecting it. So it's interesting to see if there'll be...
like, because because with Luffy, it's like, he was saved and such, but with, like, Dory, like, it was, as far as we can tell, random chance. But with Dory, it was clearly the actions of someone else, and he's, like, justifying it, and, like, he's not gonna run from the battle just because someone else is interfering,
Yeah, because he's saying, like, this was,
like,
a consequence for something, that the gods of Elbaf, I suffered this punishment for some reason or another.
Right. And, so, but, I guess that's the thing, he's saying it's, karmic or divine punishment, but, like, Luffy knows it's someone else. Like, it's not some higher power, it's just someone who should be stopped. So, of course, Luffy would disagree with that. Like, so, yeah. Because, an outside force interrupting with the fight is, it's cheapening their honor, and so, yeah.
And, of course, Luffy freaking out, that catches Vivi's attention, because one thing I sort of forgot, like, now that we've read this stretch of chapters, I almost sort of forgot that, like, Vivi just fairly recently joined the crew. So
yes,
she's got to
like,
sort of develop
baby.
She's got to develop that attachment to the crew, and you kind of get a moment between her and Luffy here, where, like, she sees him freaking out, like he wants to.
Like, why does he care so much about the giant he just met? Like, or as she puts, I'm just quoting her line directly. He doesn't act like an outlaw with a price on his head. Like, she's, again, she's, like, used to the world. Like, she's been with Baroque Works, and there are characters within it that have or at least Mr. Zero, as she found out. No, I guess so. Yeah, actually, none of the Baroque Works members have bounties at this point in the story. Like, they mention later that, like, Mr. 3, he defeated a criminal who had a 42 million bounty. But, of course, bounties aren't power levels, so that doesn't matter, because Luffy defeats him. But because they're a secret organization, of course none of them would have bounties. They're not infamous, so,
I also didn't...
I had a point to saying that. Or go on?
Well, no, if you still have something to say, I'm cutting you off then, because mine's a different idea.
No, I forgot what I was saying. Go ahead.
Well, on an unrelated note, I thought it was also sort of interesting, I didn't bring this up earlier, but just... that Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine they return in this arc because they were so utterly stomped in the last one that I just sort of thought they were done. But no, they're coming back, and yeah, it's not like they have, like, major interference in this arc, so it's not like, oh, they were terrible in the last arc, but now suddenly they're back and they're real threats. But it was just interesting that they came back. Yeah, they're still, like,
they don't come off as stronger, but because of the situation, they're still like dangerous. Like, because obviously, like, they fight Luffy, and Usopp and Vivi aren't strong enough to handle them. Luffy's trapped, so of course, what happens? And then like that's the thing. It's like we know that they're too strong or too weak for Luffy and Zoro and Sanji, but Zoro's trapped. Sanji's just missing, like, the entire arc. And Luffy's was stuck under the bones, so they're too tough for those guys, but they're perfect threats for Usopp, who's the weakest one. So yeah.
Now, looking back on this moment, I'm a little confused at, like, what's going on here, because you have Zoro dragging the dinosaur, and then he meets this. It's Nami, but that's not Nami.
It's a wax figure.
Oh, it's a wax figure. Okay, because I was wondering, like, how did they get a clone? Like, who's transforming? How'd they do this? But if it's a wax figure,
because remember, if you remember in the last part of the fight, Mr. 3 has a bunch of wax figures of himself shaped by him and painted by Miss Golden Week. So
that's right.
These are this. Yes.
Well, that answers my question then.
So yeah, it's the same thing with the Nami one that catches Zoro off guard, and the Luffy one that catches Nami off guard. So yeah, it makes sense in retrospect, of course. But yeah, Usopp finds Luffy and Vivi, and he's getting up to date on the full situation.
A dinosaur ate Nami, and Luffy's just pissed, like, what?
Yep. And of course, Vivi, the, like, calm one, points out that, like, okay, how did you, like, he's just randomly guessing things. If he's like, calm the fuck down, dude, because she's, more level-headed. So, well, I think about it. That's like, like, because her character, she is kind of a, warrior. Like, she's trying to think of, like, okay, what's the logical threat to deal with at the time. But that logic is also, like, So, at the start of the arc, she was, like, being serious when no one else gave a fuck. But now she's, like, being serious at the right time. So it's, like, it's a trait it's not necessarily, good or bad. It's just, like, when is it utilized? So it's good. And, yeah. So anyway, Baroque defeats Dory because Dory was weakened and Mr. 3 intervened. And Luffy is, of course, not pleased with that. And, Baroque isn't either because he starts crying. And Mr. 3 is like, oh, you're happy that you finally won, yeah. But of course, as we find out, as I already mentioned, he didn't want to refuse Dory's, Dory was willing to fight him even though he was wounded. And Baroque wasn't going to insult him by not, following up with his best. So, of course he won. So yeah, Mr. 3 traps him as Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine find Karoo and Vivi. Oh yeah, Usopp didn't really meet Mr. 5, so even if he knew his powers, he wouldn't, like... it's just a logical progression. Like, of course, Mr. 5 is immune to explosions. But, yeah, Usopp's just... Yeah, it doesn't work. And they get defeated pretty handily. Oh, does your book have a typo with Miss Valentine saying that Luffy is worth 300 million berries? Or does she correctly say 30? At the start of chapter 121.
No, mine says 30 million.
It says... It's the correct 30 million? Okay. Yeah, my book's older, so of course it has a typo.
Although, now that you mention typos, that does... I mean, it's not till later, and it involves a character who hasn't been introduced yet, so I won't say it yet. But, I just have to make... this is my self-reminder to not forget to bring that up later.
Gotcha. So yeah, Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine handily do with the Straw Hats, as is, while Baroque's getting trapped. And we're not even quite at the low point yet of the arc. Like, things are really bad, but it could get worse. So Vivi gets trapped in Mr. 3's candelabra along with Nami and Zoro, and they're getting turned into wax figure, like former human wax figures. And now we're at the low point properly.
Although I do like the moment where Luffy's still trapped under the skeleton house thing, and he's getting a face full of bombs from Mr. 5, and he just spits on his shoe because it's Luffy.
Yeah, he refuses to give up even at like this, like completely unable to really do much. He's still gonna fight. So then, I love how fucking... Oh no, this was... Okay, yeah, so Baroque gets mad and tries to escape because Mr. 3 is saying stupid shit. So Mr. 3 puts wax swords in his hands. And then I love how Zoro reacts to this eventually, because... Or, like, he's like... if I cut off my legs, I can fight. Or what he says to, Baroque is like, a giant without hands and feet is still more useful than a dead man. Like, they're refusing to, give up their pride and honor until the last minute. And so that they're still ready to fight. And even if it means, like, fucking self-mutilation, like, Zoro actually hacks halfway through his legs. Absolute madman. Fucking, like, I love it, because it's like, he could have cut it off so that Zoro didn't hurt himself at all, like, because Luffy and Usopp come in to kind of reward their determination, so, like, they're unable to really do anything, but that determination, like, boom, Luffy and Usopp come in. But no, Zoro's still, like, he's still hurt. And fucking Nami's like, I can't believe you would hack off your legs so you could run. And I'm like, no, I wanted to hack off my legs so I could fight. It's like, they're so stupid. I love it. Also,
shout out in the SBS, shout out to Drunk Sam.
Yes, the best character in One Piece. Oh, what? They're celebrating. I'm gonna join in. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Volume 14 SBS. Oda loves his little background characters. Like, I don't think we've mentioned before, but probably the most famous one is Panda Man, who's just like an Easter egg character. Because apparently the origins of the character was he submitted him to a contest for the manga Kinnikuman, or Muscle Man, where he was just, I guess he was having, fan-created wrestling characters, and Panda Man was Oda's submission. So I don't know if he was drawing manga at that point. No, probably not. Kinnikuman's kind of old, so... he was probably, younger, but yeah. Now he's an Easter egg character in One Piece, and you can find him in a lot of crowd shots and stuff. I usually don't notice him, personally, but, except in, like, Baradier, where he first started showing up, because, I've read that material the most of the Panda Man stuff, I suppose, but, yeah.
Also, I love how when Luffy first shows up and Nami's like, destroy the pillar, we're being turned into wax figures. And Luffy's like, oh, you're in danger? Zoro just says, nope, no problem here. As he, had already hacked through his legs. Because Zoro, yeah. And then Zoro does his pose. He says, if I'm going to be a statue, I want this pose. And he's just holding a sword in the air.
Zoro also does not give a fuck. Like, Luffy and Zoro are just like, nope, no fucks to give here. It's just so good.
You have to feel so bad for Nami, because not only is she surrounded by a bunch of men, she's surrounded by a bunch of stupid men.
Yeah, like, at least Vivi kind of actually has a head on her shoulders. Like, everyone else is just stupid. Like, Sanji's, like, the smartest. Like, I love later on when he's in the Mr. Theory's hideout and he gets the call from Mr. Zero. And, like, in a couple of lines, he's able to deduce exactly what's going on. And he's having, like, internal monologues, which is something Luffy doesn't do. Like, so he's definitely smart. It's just that when he's around, like, Luffy or Vivi, he becomes dumb because he's Sanji. And he's got Nami Swan, just fucking Sanji. But yeah, Luffy starts the fight because he gets a candle locked on his leg and weaponizes it immediately because he's Luffy and he's smart boy when it comes to fighting and figuring shit out. Though it doesn't work.
Also, I like how, like, he uses the hilt of the wax sword that's in the giant's hand. So, like, as he's spinning around, he's, like, digging into the giant's hand. But he's like, no, trust me, this is fine.
Yeah, I mean, that's the closest thing to the Candlebra, so it makes sense. But it's a little unfortunate for Brogy in the moment. Oh yeah, and Zoro's yelling at him like, Luffy, what the fuck? Yeah, it's good. Lots of, like, little technical things, like the buggy fight, where Luffy's just being or Arlong too, where Luffy's just being creative and cool.
Oh right, the wax pillar's falling. It's about to fall right on top of them. Just good gags.
Ugh. Then Luffy gets hit by another weird power, like because they mention it's a form of hypnosis, so it's similar to Django, where Golden Week has. So it's not a devil fruit. I think it's mentioned in a later SBS, if not one of these. But yeah, her colors chap it's hypnosis. So, which it leads to more, just stuff as like she she Luffy's on the black one and he wants to betray his friends, so they're like, Vivi's like, don't step out of the black circle, and he's like, I don't want to listen to you, so he steps out of the black circle. So, just like, and so it's like goofy, but then like there's also moments like when he's drinking the tea and he's like, the tea is good, but he's like clearly straining and angry, like because he wants to help his comrades, but he can't. So, like. It's neat, like, because of course, like, Luffy can't deal with tricksters, like, he's, he can only do so much against them, like, he's creative and, such, but, like, he's not smart, it's necessarily smart, it's weird, it's a weird nuance to try, that can be tricky to explain, but it's like, I don't know, how do you feel about the Golden Week stuff? Did you have any thoughts on it, or, like, how Luffy was interacting with it or anything, or?
Well, I mean, I like how Zoro says, like, oh, hypnotic powers would be devastating against a simple-minded fool like him, where he's just...
Right. Thinking back to, like, Kuro, he is definitely very susceptible to hypnosis. And when he'll get hit by hypnosis, that's not even aimed at him. So, yeah.
So, yeah, Luffy is dumb.
But sometimes he's smart.
But most of the time, he's dumb. Really, really dumb.
Also, I like how, like... Mr. Five's I love the way they expand on Mr. Five's powers, where he's using a revolver with breath bullets. Like, that's really cool. Because it's just like, yeah, that totally makes sense. It's like, he's shooting bombs. I just like, I like it, and because like we've already seen this guy, but even now we're getting new aspects to his powers, and like, then there's also there's the bit where Usopp, like, he shoots Luffy with the Fire Star to Oh, okay. I know something else too, but I was gonna say, he shot Luffy with the Fire Star to burn off his shirt. Just, Usopp's, like, he did the, I wasn't aiming at you kind of thing, or like, oh, you missed. No, I wasn't aiming at you, like that kind of thing. But the one thing I noticed is that Mr. Five, oh no, never mind. I guess his bullets move slower. Okay, because he was shooting at Usopp, and like Usopp's like, oh, he's not shooting, and then he gets hit. So I'm guessing the bullets move slower, or something.
I'd imagine. I thought the thing was like because it's like it's a breath bomb that like it couldn't be seen because like he looks back and he's like he's not.
Yeah, that okay. Maybe that might be it too. Because I was just thinking about the speed. Because I feel like I don't know, in my mind bullets are really fast. So
I don't know.
I guess that's part of it. Too,
have you seen this scene in the anime? I'm guessing not.
Not in years. No.
Well, yeah, because I was like, I bet if we looked at the anime, we'd definitely know what's going on if it's visible or not.
People generally agree that at like this point, the anime is still pretty fine. So, but anyway, so yeah, Luffy gets his shirt burnt off, and so we cut to Sanji, and he's just like. He's back at the ship. He's starting to catch on that something's wrong. He starts looking around, finds Mr. Three's hideout. He runs into a saber-toothed tiger, and he's beating up the next panel. He's riding a saber-toothed tiger that's beat up. Oh god.
I like that it's not even like a page turn gag. Like it's just in the same. It's just the very next panel. Like so you can very clearly see it. It's just that nonchalant. It's good. Good comedic timing.
Yep. No, Oda's definitely really good with his comedic timing. He has been for a good while. So anyway, as with Golden Week stuff failing, Mr. 3 gets into his big robot thing, and Luffy's like,
cool,
it's cool. Totally, he's a guy. He likes cool robot suits and stuff. But of course, like, it's just kind of like useless. Luffy, it's good defensive option, but he can't hurt Luffy because Luffy's rubber. So
Luffy is the self-insert for the average shonen fan, where they see cool things and they like the cool things.
Oh man, yeah, and I like how the fight is resolved with of course, that's the thing about devil fruits is they all have their weaknesses. So, Mr. 3's wax is as hard as steel, but it's still wax. So Usopp realizes it can be melted, and Mr. 3's his big brain, the fire on top of the 3 in his hair, his head is what brings because he brings or not really. I just thought it was funny, but he burns down the candlelight gets burnt down. And it's so like as far as like ideals, like does the theme of the arc, like it was a good like technical like it was like almost like a puzzle battle, like because it's not a direct fight, like there's like it's 4 against 3 if you count Karoo, and the goal isn't necessarily to defeat the other half, it's to save and that's a good way to like because Luffy's again he's so strong, like he can Mr. 3 has some good defensive powers. But overall, he's still weaker than Luffy. Like even though he's like, I mean, he's even mentions that he uses his brain over his brawn. So that, of course, it's about tricks and trickery and stuff, rather than honor. So by making sure that the fight isn't about brute strength either. It's about like Luffy, but Luffy and Usopp are also. They're actually they're the like Nami doesn't really like. She's smart, but I wouldn't say that it necessarily extends to her few in battles because she doesn't have a real the strength or speed or gear to do technical abilities. So like Usopp does, or Luffy with his smarts. So Zoro is pretty straightforward, and Sanji and their fighting styles. So it's like they fucked up because they're fighting the quote unquote smartest characters when it comes to actual fighting. So, I didn't think about that. But I like how, since they're freed, Nami, Vivi, and Zoro finish off Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine. And when I love the fucking Usopp, he's like, exploding star! And Mr. 5's like, nice try. And Usopp's like, JK, LMAO, he's a liar. Of course. That's so, like, because it's playing with the, characters call out their attacks. So Usopp calls out the wrong attack. Like, I know other things have done this too.
Yeah, Dragon Ball did that once where Goku
okay.
is, like, doing his rock, paper, scissors thing. And he's like...
Yes, that's right.
He says one and then throws another. And it's like, that worked?
Exactly. So this is probably a bit of a reference. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Oda... I mean, Oda's as mentioned, that Dragon Ball is a huge influencer. All the big 3 authors have, like... Kubo even said, like, if you haven't read Dragon Ball, what the fuck are you doing? I think in one interview, or maybe it was a volume insert or something. So yeah.
Now here's a little nitpick I gotta make because it just doesn't seem very practical. It doesn't make any sense. So when Zoro gets frozen as a wax statue, he doesn't have his bandana on, but then the fire starts, and then he jumps out of the fire with the bandana on. So, like, did he put the bandana on in the midst of the flames to jump out and make the cool entrance, and then he takes it right off again?
Well, he made the pose, right? He's got to look cool. It's Zoro. He's got to look cool, and he looks cooler with the bandana on. That's funny. I didn't think about that. I never thought about that. I've read this so many fucking times.
I know.
And I never thought about the bandana, because you're right, he didn't have the bandana on when he was in the statue.
I know Oda will sometimes just have inconsistencies, but then he'll go back later, like in the SBS, and he's like, oh no, this is actually what happened. Like, he knows they're inconsistencies, but he plays them off like, oh no, this is what happened. So, like, I don't know if that's just...
Notice, like, no, this was a recent chapter, but, like, Luffy had a pack on his back, or maybe it was his... It was only drawn some of the time, so he'll have stuff like that where he, like... apparently, Johnny has a watch on his wrist, and he would, like, if you pay attention, it jumps... It's, like, sometimes it's on his right wrist, sometimes it's on his left wrist, sometimes it's gone. Like, yeah, he can be, you know, he does the inconsistencies like that, but this is a little different in that, like... He's very clearly, like, wearing it, and he keeps wearing it, so it's like it's actually it is consistent. And then that's the thing,
because like he doesn't have it, then he has it, and then he takes it back off again. So it's like, is that to say that like Zoro just did that?
That's
just
the only thing that makes sense. He must have put it on while standing in the fire. And that just makes it funnier to me. Like, yeah, it's dumb, but it's Zoro.
I mean,
he wants to look cool.
Not like
of course,
Oda's the only one who's ever had like art inconsistencies before, like just forgetting little things or changing things.
Yeah.
Because I know that's a big thing in.
But in this case, I think it's on purpose. Well, maybe it's on purpose, maybe it's not. But it's funny to think about. So anyway, Luffy chases after Mr. 3, and like. It doesn't even last a few pages. Like, Mr. 3, like, sets up the situation, and Luffy, like, immediately just, like, punches him, or kicks him, rather, and just one-shots him.
And you do get
Instincts.
you do get that moment where he says, we're the best brains of Baroque works, and you're just an oaf who acts on instinct. And then Luffy hits him the first try, and he's like, how'd you know? Instinct.
Yep.
So that's a thing that I guess will come back up again later.
I wonder if maybe, like, he literally just heard him, because he can only talk from, like, sure, I guess, like, I'm sure there was, like, an echo in the anime, like, he's throwing his voice, maybe he's throwing his voice, I don't know, but he, like, because I just, like, well, I say that maybe he was just being, like, he did something stupid because, like, you know, I just like the idea of him being smarter than he's not as smart as he thinks, you know, because like I said, Luffy is like the smartest, one of the smartest fighters in, you know, even though he's gullible and dense and ignorant, you know, and of course doesn't give a fuck, he's still one of the cleverest fighters in the crew. So, you know, of course, but he just fucking wrecks Mr. 3 instantly.
And then I like this cut to Sanji before the end of the volume where he picks up the phone snail, and he's like answering it like it's a prank call. On the other line, though, it's Mr. Zero, one of the 7 warlords of the sea.
The leader of Baroque works. So he has, and Sanji's just like, hello, this is Restaurant Le Crap. Would you like to make a reservation? After he was like casually drinking tea, like he's like, yeah, tea, bitches, I'm gonna drink it. And he's like, oh, yeah, phone. Oh man. Sanji's good. Like, even though he was just taking, like, he just not getting involved in the actual, like, conflict. Like, this is actually the second arc in a row, which, like, I think we've talked about this before, or I've definitely talked about this before in general with the fan base of One Piece, where, like, because people, like, you can't necessarily have, no, we have talked about it before, because, like, with Bleach, like, okay, you can have every character involved in every single arc, but what does it look like? You have Bleach has 5 arcs across 700 chapters. So it's like you know, this is Sanji is out of it for this arc, but next arc he does get a little bit more focus as he's the one to go up the mountain with Luffy. You know, where this arc has more focus on Usopp, obviously, and Luffy, of course. Like Luffy always gets focus; he's the main character. But like, yeah.
And the difference with say Oda. Oda is definitely the name of this series. But the difference between like One Piece and Naruto is that like Oda has been very careful with like introducing main characters, whereas Kishimoto had the tuning exams where all these characters showed up. So like I guess it set sort of the expectation, like, you know, you could get invested in any one of these characters. So then like if they don't show up later, then it's sort of disappointing because like, oh, my favorite character is not in this arc or whatever. Like it was too much to feasibly handle, unless you wanted to have another Bleach scenario where, okay, everybody is there, and the pacing is just terrible. It's just...
Yeah, well, because it's like with Naruto, he introduced everyone with the same level of weight, I would say. Like, Lee and Neji got introduced on the same team as Tenten. Which of these characters is more important? Kiba, Shino, Hinata...
well, yeah, I mean, obviously, not
Shikamaru,
every
Choji,
character who was introduced during the tuning exams mattered. Like, 10-10 didn't matter, but, like, you did have
that's what
Lee
I was saying,
and Neji
is that they were
there,
introduced with the same level of weight.
Yeah.
So, but whether they lived up to that weight was... Like, Shikamaru was, like, perfect as far as, like, getting the amount of attention, but no other character got as much attention as Shikamaru. Like, I think I laid it out, and Shikamaru got roughly the same amount of attention as Sakura did, and you would argue that, like, yeah, she's supposed to be a more important character than everyone else because she was around since the beginning, but not really. So yeah, it's like,
whereas like Oda,
but yeah, you're right with Oda.
Yeah, Oda will introduce a lot of side characters who will stick around for a while, like Johnny and Yosaku, or now Vivi. So like you have characters who show up for a bit and then will disappear. Like, I don't know, do Johnny and Yosaku ever come back? Don't answer that. I'm just speculating. But like,
go on.
Yeah, but the actual main cast, like the ones we're following, it's really small actually for at least what I'm used to in shonen stories.
Yeah, I mean, like where we got to chapter 150, this stretch of chapters, like where Bleach was in Soul Society at that point. Where was Naruto? Chunin exams?
No, Naruto would have been, I think that was Sasuke retrieval.
Real? No.
Or maybe not quite. Maybe it would have been the Tsunade arc still, but it was...
Yeah, it was Search for Tsunade, so he'd already been introduced to the Leaf Nine, the Sand Ninjas, and this Senpai trio, the Lee and Neji. So it's like, yeah, so with Naruto you had like the, roughly 15 young characters, and then a few Jonin like Kakashi, Jiraiya was another notable one. So by Bleach, we were in Soul Society, and they were introducing
literally
everyone. Soul Society ended. Yeah, they were introducing, the 13 division... Like, obviously not everyone got focused, but, the division commanders, their sidemen, their lieutenants, maybe a few scattered just seats, or, like, Ikkaku and Yumichika. So it's like, yeah, by this point, there were, like, a shitload of characters being introduced who would be considered, like, main or main supporting roles. But with, like, One Piece, it's like, yeah, it is a small cast at this point. We have 5 main characters, 6 by the end of the stretch of chapters, one semi-main character, Vivi, who's, and then, a bunch of side characters, but, some of them have recurred, like Buggy, and Alvida, and then we have the cover stories where, like, right now the Helmeppa, it does end this stretch of chapters, the Coby Helmeppa one. So to summarize, they were on the Marine base, the training, Helmeppa's official Marine now too. Morgan he was going to get prison transferred, but he escaped. And Helmeppa disowned his dad. Or he's like, or he left him. But during the escape, shit happened, and Coby and Helmeppa were taken in by the Vice Admiral who was there to transfer Morgan, Vice Admiral Garp. Yeah, Garp, the dude in the dog mask. And he took them to the Marine base in the Grand Line. I think it was the same one that we saw before the Logtown arc. Yeah, that one. And so they're training to be real Marines, with under the highest ranking Marine we've seen in the series so far. And yeah, that's pretty much their cover story. I can't think of anything else to note about it.
And
did you have anything to say about the cover story?
Well, now we've got one going on with Django, where he had that. Well, he escaped off that island and he had the dance contest with the guy from the Baratier.
Full body, full body. He's it's crossing over the characters from different arcs, but that one's not over yet. So, but aside from I've said before, but it's like aside from describing that they've happened, like there's not much to stay until it actually comes back into the story. In my opinion, like it's cool, but like we'll see how it's relevant when it becomes if it becomes relevant again, because some of the cover stories do not become relevant again. But I think it's fair to guess that the Coby one will, because Coby is more of an important character than Buggy. Buggy was an antagonist. Coby was important for a different reason. So, but Buggy recurred. So yeah. So anyway, the fighting is over, and we get to a moment that I had to think about for a bit, because Dory did not die. What did you think about nobody dying in One Piece?
I mean, I don't know. Like I didn't. I don't know if really like there was much to take away from like whether or not Dory had died in this arc, because like really, he was just introduced. I mean, it's not like there would be much of an emotional attachment to his death. It all depends on like what's the idea that Oda's trying to get across.
Like Baroque, yeah. I get you. Because I will say there is at least one death in One Piece that gets undone that I'm not satisfied with. But a lot of the ones I'm fine with, and I had to think about this one for a second, because again, it's like the emotions weren't really there. Like Brogy was crying, but I don't necessarily. But even then, it's like I'm trying to think of like, okay, what is the takeaway from Dory being dead? Like someone interfered in this fight, and like because the way I see it is like they both held on to their honor even when outside forces were interfering. So by keeping Dory alive, it rewards them for that. But because they get to continue their fight. They get to continue fighting for their honor. But if Dory actually died, then it would be tragic, which might be interesting, but, not necessarily what One Piece wants to do. So, that's kind of my take on it, because I would say that there is a death where there's nothing to take from the character still being alive, and that's dissatisfying, because it makes the death kind of not matter, because there has to be a takeaway from the character being alive, like I guess going back to Naruto with Neji and Choji not dying in the Sasuke retrieval arc, like, it would have been interesting if they died, but like, what's quote unquote, what's the point of them? Because they do get character moments later, but the moments are kind of this, we argue that they were very similar to the ones before, so, I'm just trying to rationalize that in regards to my current feelings on character death. Because that's the big risk, is by bringing a character back, it risks making the death scene arbitrary, like it didn't matter, and so that the act of bringing of them not being dead has to have some meaning to it, Like I honestly, like in Dragon Ball, it's in theory fine if like it why the struggle to bring like Bora, it mattered that Goku was working to bring him back, it was conflict there, so it's not like they just like, oh, we have these Dragon Balls lying around. It's not like, yeah, so I don't know, I might have to do a video on character death eventually, so I want to, if you have any input, that would be great.
Well, I don't know, I remember my issue with Ned, well, yeah, and I guess it also applies to Choji, really, is that like when they get their character moments later, it seems kind of just like a rehash of what happened before, but like not in a good way, because like we've talked about how like the rehash of the ninjas as tool theme or idea, maybe not a theme, but how that like that keeps coming back because that's like a recurring theme. So when that element would pop up again, it's still tying into this idea. Whereas like with Choji, you could maybe argue that there's stuff going on with like the dynamic with his team, and like when Asuma dies.
Like maybe I didn't personally find that narratively satisfying, but does that make it bad? I don't know. Like if like, because there is a slight difference. Like before it was him fighting for himself and his but then later he's sort of proving it to his team. Like but then I don't know.
But for me, when I think of like Neji in particular, like other than his moment in the war arc where he dies, what does he do?
Right, like
what does him surviving
I did point out at the time, because with Shikamaru, he failed the mission, but no one died, so it's like, that would make the arc was already kind of like the quote unquote darkest ending, because the main character just got completely wrecked, so having characters die because of, and also it might have made Sasuke harder to forgive if people died because of him. So
but then again, it's also not that he
those
killed
are more
them directly,
reasons,
so it I can see that, but also I could not see that.
So yeah, it's I don't know, we should next on the Nen Show we're rereading Naruto because honestly just how I read media and also my knowledge of Naruto is so different now. It would be a bit of a different experience. So, because we have more context to the whole story now, because I've read the whole thing, and you forgot bits from the war on the way up there. So, yeah, but no, that would take like another 14 episodes, and it might even be longer than the 40 hours we already have. Okay.
Well, I don't know if we were to ever do like some sort of a Nen Show revisit. I think we could sort of just skip the whole like recapping the events of what happens and just talk about what they mean. Maybe
just talk about our
we'd
general
have to change
feelings
the format
instead of
a bit,
the whole
but...
thing. Yeah, things we noticed. Yeah, okay, that might be fair. So anyway, yeah, I just wanted to give my thoughts on Dory. Like I said, I feel like there's something to take from Dory still being alive. Like, and yeah, that would be different from Dory being dead. But like that's the thing about storytelling is like what happens. The context tells different stories about what the ideas within that story. Like, if Dory did die, then made this tragic, then it would be saying something different about honor. It would be saying something like that, maybe sticking to your honor isn't the best thing, and would potentially contradict the idea of the arc. So, yeah, like, because I guess maybe it comes from, like, the people who move on from Dragon Ball, where everyone comes back to life easily, and they move on to Attack on Titan, where random nobodies die, and it's like, oh, it's so brutal and dark, yeah, characters dying is better. Like, I don't think anyone here thinks that, but, like, I'm sure the idea exists, but, like, no, death does not necessarily make the story better, I think we can both agree on that. And yeah, the reasoning I thought was fine too. Like, yeah, because the weapons were always like dull and chipped and not in the best condition. I mean, they definitely look a bit more beat up afterwards, maybe, but maybe it's because they're just given more detail. So I don't know. And I like how like they're like reconnecting and oh my god, you're alive, great. And then they're like then they start fighting like immediately. Like, you looking for a fight? Like. They just can't help but argue. And, well, I also love, like, the parallel between Zoro and Sanji, because, like, where they're both, like, arguing about their kills, and, like, because we find out that the whole reason they're fighting is because of something silly, pretty much. It's like, yeah, they which fish is bigger, but, shit, I was gonna say something. But yeah, well, because I also like it because, like, just because they're fighting doesn't mean they can't respect each other. And shit, I didn't think about that because Mr. 3 had zero respect for his opponents. He was kept belittling them and looking down on them, but obviously he was wrong to do so because his opponents were just as competent or even more competent than him. So yeah, I didn't think about that. Respect as an idea. So, But yeah, I love how Sanji like successfully, because he talks to Mr. Zero, and he gets some information, and Mr. Zero spills like the fucking beans. And gives Sanji a shitload of information, but he fights the unluckies.
So then I have to wonder, how do these snail phones work? Like, wouldn't Mr. Zero obviously be able to tell by Sanji's voice that that's not the guy?
I imagine because even modern phones, like, the voice quality is not great. Like, at least with my phone. So. And these are fucking fantasy. Well, because how the phones work is they, you know what? Actually, I think I remember. I forget how the anime handles it, but like how apparently the snails like talking to each other. Like that's explained like with psychic waves, basically, like that, or electromagnetic waves or something. That's how Oda explains it in the. So it might be like literally like the snail is. I don't know how good the snail is at mimicking the voice. Because, like, I guess the receiver... Because I think how it's portrayed is that the snail is... Their lips are moving, and they're making the same expressions as the person on the other side of the phone, basically. So it's possible that how Oda intended it... Like, I don't know how the anime... I think the anime presents it with the character's voice, but I'm wondering if, like Mr. Zero's hearing his snail talking, basically. And it's mimicking what Sanji is saying. So, there would be... So, I mean, there would be still difference in, like, accents and word choices... But, he definitely, he did not notice that something was wrong, even though, he maybe could have, but, yeah.
Well, I mean, because he does sort of figure out, like, hey, okay, we're gonna just kill Mr. 3 because he's incompetent, which, like, isn't figuring out that wasn't actually Mr. 3, but it also just shows that, like, Mr. Zero, he is ruthless.
Right, because, Mr. 3 failed. He lied. Or he lied or was wrong, which means he's not trustworthy, and their organization is all about, secrecy, so, yeah, he should be executed. So, so he's like... because I like it because, like, Mr. Two is being sent to Little Garden, like, oh shit, or he'll be in there between, I just fucking realized that, because Mr. Two is sent to go straight from Alabasta to Little Garden, so he would have run into someone going straight from Little Garden to Alabasta. But the Straw Hats didn't go from Little Garden to Alabasta, they went to Drum Island, so of course they missed Mr. Two. I didn't think about that. Because I guess that's also part of what's, like, the tension it's supposed to be, like, because even though Sanji, like, made Mr. Zero think that the Straw Hats were all defeated, like, there's still, Mr. Two has a good chance of running into them if they go straight to Alabasta. Like, at least that's what the audience should be thinking at this point, but of course, within a few chapters, we find out that's not what's happening, so...
I also, just as one, I mean, this might not be the last time that they show up, but, I mean, just whenever the Unluckies appear, I love how they just get these panels to themselves, and then it's a cut back, and you just see them just watching, like, they're just sitting in the windows, and, like, they just appear. They're just there.
Yeah, well, because, like, they're animals. Because that's the thing about how Oda does animals, especially, like, you see it with Karoo. They're people. They have personalities and feelings and strong emotions. They just can't talk. Like, that's the only thing that separates animals in this setting from people, is that animals just cannot speak. Because Chopper could understand, like, going way ahead to, like, the last chapter, Chopper could understand Karoo, because Chopper's an animal, and he can speak animal, so he's able to translate what Karoo's quacks into English. Like, Karoo is sapient. He has the thinking capacity of a human. He just happens to be a duck. So it's with the Unluckies, like, they can't speak. They are also animals. But they act human. They are, so...
But also because they don't speak, that just makes the scenes that they're in, I think, all the funnier, because, like, they just move in silence. So, like, Sanji's sitting there on the phone with Mr. Zero, and they're just lining up their weapons, ready to fight, and Sanji's like, nothing's happening.
And then, of course, he's dodging gunfire. And of course, back in Whiskey Peak, when they, like, wordlessly, like, nail the fucking Straw Hats for knowing Mr. Zero's identity, like, they're just like, yep, here's the drawings, and this is just really good. It's fun.
Also, I think is that bird dead? Did Sanji snap its neck? That's what it looks like in this image.
It looks like it, but I'm pretty sure he's not dead.
Because then again, that's also like...
Or she. It would be a female vulture. Did they have to find a female vulture? Like, did they go through a bunch of male intelligent vultures and pick just the smart female one? Like, no, this is a nitpick.
But yeah, the bird did kind of have, like, that sort of, like, rubbernecking look thing, so it might not necessarily be dead.
Yeah, it definitely, like... Well, because it got knocked out, so you'd think, like... Yeah, if it got knocked out by that, it's probably dead, but...
Anyways, moving on from the minor details that don't really matter, Sanji gets an eternal log pose from Mr. Zero, from the Unluckies.
Yeah. So anyway, moving on, unless you had anything else to add. So yeah, Zoro. It was weird because, like, it really hasn't been that long since we've seen them, but we see Smoker and Tashigi in the Grand Line, chasing the Straw Hats. And of course, they're starting to catch wind of Baroque works, like, they capture Mr. 11. And I like how Smoker really is, like, the most competent Marine we've seen in the series by, like, far. Like, even in the Coby cover story, like, I don't know if you remember, but Garp fell asleep. Like, Morgan slashed him, and Garp was just like, oh yeah, I fell asleep. Like, he's the highest ranking dude so far, and he's just, like, kinda useless? Like, Morgan escaped under his watch, and no one could stop. Well, because Coby and Helma got involved, and Helma was kidnapped, that's right, and he was a hostage, and Coby didn't want Helma to die, and so yeah, it's like... but Smoker, he's like, those orders that were in your pockets, and Mr. Oma was like, what? I burned those! And Smoker's like, gotcha, bitch! Like, he's a crafty motherfucker. So he's not just like, he's smart, he's strong, he's good, like, he's perfect, except he's a Marine, and the Marines suck, so he doesn't agree with them, and he's disobeying orders to follow the Straw Hats. So, yeah. That's Smoker for you.
And here's where I'm sort of starting to find my general appeal with One Piece, because before, like, with Baratier, I had said that, like, with how Oda was introducing the characters, like, it was effective, but it also, like, something just wasn't fully clicking with me. Whereas, like, this stretch of chapters, like, there are a lot of moving parts going, like we just had the Little Garden thing, which is, still on our way to Alabasta, but in a sense, it's sort of like its own, it's almost like not a self-contained story, but it's like its own little mini arc within the overall arc of Baroque works. And then the same thing happens with Drum Place, Drum King,
Drum Island,
whatever. Yeah.
Yes.
So like they're these sort of self-contained stories within a greater story, but then also you've got like Captain Smoker and his, or not Captain, I forget what he is. Whatever.
He's a captain.
He's a captain. Okay. You've got Captain Smoker's crew moving in the background, and you've got, Mr. Zero's stuff happening, and Mr. 2 shows up. So, like, it reminds me a lot of, like, pro wrestling, where you have all these, like, interwoven narratives. Because, like, each person has, like, obviously each person, like, you have people contracted with your company, so you gotta have a story for them, you gotta have a character focused for them. And then, so, like, they all have their own narratives, but then they all tie in together into this greater narrative.
Right, so it's almost like it's also like comparable like superhero comics where you have like all these different heroes and then they cross over to each other's stories and they reference individual stories, but then there's
that probably makes more sense to more people.
It creates this it creates a big world, and that you just like, though the difference is that this is one self-contained story. Like, well, I guess wrestling, I don't know how wrestling is structured. Like, I know there are different events, but and I know there's different, like, are there different, like, because I know there's, like, WWE, but then there's like Raw or something like that. Like, there's different sub-groups, and do those cross over? Or...
Yeah, like, there are different companies that are completely disconnected from each other. Well, most of the time they're disconnected. Sometimes, though, they'll
still cross over every so often,
they cheat and they steal narratives from previous things to build the character. But, yeah, like, so, like, if we're just talking WWE, like, you have a Raw and a SmackDown. They're two separate shows, but they also play into the overall WWE. So, like, there will be, like, crossover and, bleeding between the two. But, like, here it's just...
Yeah, and this is kind of like that, but on a smaller scale, because it's just the one piece. You read through it, you get the SBSs, you get the cover stories, and you get the in-between arc stuff. Like, this is what I was talking about earlier with After Logtown, where we see the Marine headquarters. Like, that's what this is. We're seeing Smoker. And after Little Garden, we see Mr. 2. Like, we're building into, because Smoker's going to Alabasta, which means we can assume that he's going to be there, So, which means we have a recurring character in a future arc. So, like, they're setting that up, and it's, like, it's cool, because now we're like, oh, if we like Smoker, well, we're getting more of them, and there's a chance he might run into the Straw Hats. How is he going to be dealing with Baroque works, because they're criminals.
So it's
that
neat. Sort of gives One Piece this interesting, not juxtaposition, but, like, you've got, like... On the one hand, One Piece has a smaller, like, main cast, but at the same time, it probably has a bigger overall cast, because you have so many side characters, supporting characters, doing stuff all over the place.
Yeah, it's like Hunter x Hunter would probably be similar if Hunter x Hunter was, like, as long, like, because it's similar. It has 4 main characters, but, like, the world is still really big around them. But it's only 300 so chapters, so One Piece has had more time to make its setting even bigger. Like, even at this point, though, you're starting to get the sense of the world. And Drum in particular, it was interesting rereading it because, like, there's so many, like, little things mentioned that are, like the world building that Drum, like, starts getting into. Like, that's the arc where the setting is really getting big, in my opinion. Like, rereading it, it's like, huh. So, like, there's one thing a specific thing I want to mention because I mentioned it earlier on the last episode, because there was, like, a little thing that I thought was interesting, because it was technically a point of foreshadowing, like, not a major point, but it's relevant to this stretch of chapter, so I'll talk about it later. But it's just, like, there's so many, like, Oda's really good at setting stuff up and calling back to stuff and tying threads together, and these multiple lines that he crosses over, and it's a part of the appeal of One Piece, and it's really great. Also, I just realized, like, like just Little Garden alone is almost as long as the last episode in its entirety. So yeah, everyone's done. They have the log pose to the eternal pose to Alabasta from Sanji. I love the page where Sanji's like they're like, man, we're stuck. We can't. Baroque works is gone. The log pose is gonna take a year. We can't take the Elbaf one. And Sanji's just like, but we have this. What's wrong? Like, and everyone's like, what the fuck? Sanji just like saved everyone accidentally off screen. To them it was off screen. But yeah, they decide to leave. Zoro and Sanji are arguing about their food, and so we get another foreshadow, the callback rather. What did you think about the giant island-eating goldfish whose poop is the size of islands that Usopp seems as strangely familiar?
Yeah, I didn't even notice until you brought it up that there was a connection there.
Yeah, in Volume 3, he made a lie to Kai. He said that he killed this giant goldfish and its meat could feed an island for days. Or no, they're still eating it to this day when he was 5 years. So it's like, this is kind of a running gag because this happens a few other times too. But it's because someone actually just asked me about this on my Discord and what I answered, because like what I think is cool about this, I think it like drives home the idea that the Grand Line is a place beyond imagination, because like Usopp came up with these wild fantasies that aren't wild fantasies, they're just true. Like the idea is ridiculous. Like it sounds like a children's story. A giant goldfish whose poop is the size of the islands. But that what are the like these giants? These are way bigger than people, and they still thought that yeah, that's land. Oh no, it's poop. Like it's just so goofy and wild. But like, and then this giant goldfish is actually a threat. Like it eats them, and the giants have to break their weapons. The giants who are like comparable strength to Luffy to save them, and it's like, oh my god, it's a cool way to end the arc. Giants are cool, and then we get the flashback explaining why they were fighting, because which one is bigger? And of course, I loved how it's like, oh, the skeletons, the fish were skeletons, or that's what the like. It's just cool. So, any final thoughts on Little Garden?
Well, I love how when they're going into the ship, Nami is just like, no, we need to turn around. We shouldn't do this. And Zoro's just like, Nami, resign yourself. And she's just crying, but just eating this little rice cracker.
Wait, she was eating a rice cracker when she did that?
Yeah,
she is.
That's what she's holding with the rice cracker from earlier.
Yeah, because Luffy was like, do you want a rice cracker? That's funny. She's just like, and she's because Nami is so good.
Because like
they're all so good. Fuck.
She's just grown that accustomed to being with the crew that when Zoro's just like, Nami, just stop. It's not. You should know by now. And she's just crying, but just eating the rice cracker because she knows.
I didn't notice that actually. That's funny.
No, that's probably one of my favorite panels in the stretch of chapters when it's good.
Because like I mentioned the one earlier where like Brogy says Usopp, oh, you want to be a giant, and Nami's like laughing at him, and you can see it in the panel. Like she's not like laughing. There's no speech bubble, but it's like you pay attention to the panel, and boom, of course she's laughing at him because she's on the same wavelength with Brogy, and it's funny. So. Oh man.
Yeah, because then you've also got like Sanji and
cool.
What's her name? Sanji and Vivi are still kind of freaking out a bit about what's going on, but like you have. Obviously Usopp is sort of has the same mindset as Luffy, so that's kind of different. Well, actually, no, Usopp was there before Sanji, so it is sort of interesting that, like, the original members of the crew, like Luffy, Zoro and Nami, they're, like, on this wavelength, and Usopp just has the same mentality as Luffy in this case. But, like, the newer
Sanji's
people, like Sanji and Vivi, are like, oh, we're still freaking out. This is not, are you sure about this?
Yeah, so you've got, like, the newer smarty guys, Sanji and Vivi. You got the older smarty one, Nami, and then you have Zoro, he's, like, the calm, strong guy, and then you have Luffy and Usopp who are the childish, so yeah, you can, like, divide everyone into, like, mental groups, almost.
To go back to the topic of foreshadowing, though, earlier, the stuff with the giants, but one day a little girl changed all that. I'm sure that girl won't matter ever again.
She'd be like 105 years old, but maybe she'll come back.
Well, we just were introduced to a character in the next, we will be introduced in the arc that we are about to
who's
cover.
139.
So,
yeah, it's possible. Yeah. Oh, the weapon hilts that the giants threw away, that were broken, those won't come back later. One Piece does that to you because like. Oda's no, that's obviously silly, but it's like, I mean, some just throwaway lies that Usopp said became like a major point to the end of the arc. So it's like anything can happen. Oh man. So anyway, Zoro's is training. He wants to be strong enough to cut steel, like so the wax wouldn't have been an issue. Mr. 2 is heading for Little Garden to kill Mr. 3. And Nami got sick somehow. Like, she definitely didn't get sick by running around with her belly open in a prehistoric forest. That wouldn't have happened. She's too smart for that. No. And I love everyone, like, reacting to it because, like, someone must have medical knowledge, right? And they point at Nami.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, she does. Because, like, that's the thing is because, like, we saw it back in Baradier, too. It's like, because their crew isn't fully fleshed, or even with Usopp and repairing the ship, like, they don't have a dedicated shipwright to actually fix the ship. They didn't have a cook before Sanji, so like, you know, they were just kind of doing, and then they don't have a doctor, so they just, like, they lucked out on Arlong Park with the village doctor, and luckily, like, the characters are just so fucking strong that they just need food, and they'll be fine, you know, because they're just fucking ridiculously strong, but they don't have, but you know, sickness is something they can't just.
Luffy, does
well,
it
of
hurt
course, like,
to be sick?
Usopp, Zoro,
I don't
Sanji,
know.
and Luffy
I've never been sick.
Right, they're just even Usopp, and he's like the normal one. Like, that's kind of weird. But yeah, like the baby says, they're like, "Are you even human?" Yeah, they're. Oh boy. Oh, and I like the little gag where Sanji's like, "I make sure Vivi and Nami have well-balanced, nutritional, and fresh meals. If something went bad, I would feed it to you guys." And they're like, "Hey."
I mean, Luffy doesn't care.
Because of course Sanji doesn't like wasting food. Okay, like I feel like, you know, Sanji's totally the type of person, like, if there's little mold on cheese, he would cut off the mold, you know, and feed it to Luffy and Sanji, or Zoro, not Nami. Nami was hiding news about Alabasta to keep Vivi calm, but like, I like how there's like this whole conflict of like, you know, Nami's health and the country of Alabasta, like, you know, it's interesting because like Nami before, she was like, 1 billion berries please, oh fine, I guess we'll save Vivi, but now she's like a comrade, so Nami's like being considerate for her feelings, like the whole point of saving Alabasta is the country, and you know, they need to like, you know, Nami's willing to like push past, it's just a fever, and well, because I also like how like she makes herself indispensable because she saves them from a giant fucking cyclone that nearly fucking killed them, so it's like she says like, you know, she'll be fine, they can move on, but like Vivi's like, no, we need you, you are, you know, you're too, you know, the friendship thing, because Nami's obviously like, yeah, they're caring for each other, they're trying to consider, so Vivi's like, you know what, if we need to get to Alabasta, we need Nami to not be sick, so yeah, it's good character interaction and conflict, it's good. I don't know, what did you, I just explained what was cool about it, what did you have to say?
No, I did like that, because you have, like, that was the big thing, is they almost went right into a cyclone, but, like, it's not, like, entirely their fault, like, not, like, Vivi even says that Nami is special, like, she can detect this stuff, like, in her bones, like, she's better, like, she's more than just a normal navigator, like, there's something special about her, because, like, even
yes,
you have Zoro,
who's
like, oh, I've been,
for it, yeah.
Zoro's just like, I've been following this cloud, and Nami's like, no, you gotta read the log post.
Yeah, Zoro's like the reverse. He's like he has a very bad sense of direction.
So like on one hand,
Nami has like,
on one hand, everyone on the merry go is just an idiot. So like you need Nami, but on the other hand, Nami is also really good at navigating because of her like just innate ability to detect
like she can
stuff.
feel like on Logtown she felt the barometric pressure like lower. She felt like it's gonna rain, and that when in the beginning of the Buggy arc, like, you know, I feel like Oda definitely like he planned for her to have a supernatural sense of, you know, weather from the beginning, or at least he retroactively decided that. So yeah, and it's like, because it's definitely an amazing talent of hers. But yeah, it's all good. It's cool, and I like everyone deciding stuff.
And I guess this is the big moment where I guess Vivi fully, like, because from this point on she seems to be pretty chummy with the crew. Like, yeah, well, because she's willing to make, you know, sacrifice some time in getting to Alabasta, her country, because, you know, she's the strong, you know, not. I mean, she even said, she does say that like they need Nami to get to
the island in the first place, which is probably true. But like, I mean, well, no, they do have the log post, so it's like if they hadn't moved at that one point, they would have died. But probably.
I mean, yeah, it's good because like,
but
you
at
have
the same time, like
you also brought it up with Nami earlier. So like, you have the Straw Hats getting more accustomed to Vivi, and Vivi getting more accustomed to them, and it's good character progression.
Yeah. So anyway, they they decide to find another somewhere closer than Alabasta.
And there's a person on the water.
So they decided to kind of they sail about randomly, and they find a stretch of sea that's more because they talk about the weather islands, and Nami actually mentioned it back. I don't know if you remember. She mentioned Reverse Mountain being a winter island back before they were heading up the mountain, because I think it had to do with the tides and how the water sank or something. Like, it had to do with the flow of the currents and stuff too. So like it's eternally winter on Reverse Mountain, basically, just like it is eternally winter on Drum. So Nami was aware of that idea, at least, that the Grand Line has different weather patterns. But because that's the thing, is every island on the Grand Line has its own weather and magnetic field, and that's why like the Little Garden's been prehistoric for so long, and of course, and that's how they're able to find Drum, because it's constantly winter around Drum. So, and of course their first encounter. Well, I love how like I feel like this arc, Oda's maybe he's done this before, but like he's trying some different stuff with his comedic paneling. Like, you posted 2 reaction shots from Wapol yesterday with a zoom, and I love zooms. I find them funny. Like, to the point where if a zoom happens normally in a movie, if it's not supposed to be funny, I'll laugh anyway. Like, if it just zooms in on something, like it's just humorous to me. And then because here when they're encountering chess, like there's the 4 panels of like reaction shots. There's like Zoro, Luffy, Usopp, chess, and then the next page, all of them with like an exclamation point, because they're just having a chummy conversation. Like, boy, it sure is cold today. Yeah, it sure is cold. And they're just like casually just like, yeah, and it's just like I haven't seen him do this before, so it was neat.
And then a giant ship explodes out of under the water.
Yep, a giant submarine with I like how he's like a pirate at first, but then it's like he's got a crown on his figurehead and his flag, so it's like, oh yeah, of course he's a king when we find out later, if there was any doubt. But so yeah, anyway, Wapol shows up. He's got a weird devil fruit. He eats stuff. He can eat anything, and he gets in a fight with Luffy because he doesn't like people talking back to him. You know, well, this is, I guess, now I think about it, it kind of goes back to the idea I talked about with Shanks and Buggy, where Shanks was talking about, like, you know, being a pirate means free, but it also means you have to fight other pirates. And, like, yeah, like, Wapol, he's you know, he's used to having complete freedom, and now he's, like, excising that on the I don't know if that's a word, exercising that on the Straw Hats. And, of course, they disagree, like, so it's a clash of freedoms, in a sense. Did you have any thoughts about the action? Because it was pretty short, but, because they fight Wapol's crew briefly, or the scene in general, anything about Wapol at first, or because I have something to say, but I want to give you a chance.
I mean, I don't know. I thought it was kind of funny how like Sanji is going out to like, what's going on, and then he's just got bunch of guns in his face. Like, oh, hello.
This is what's going on.
I definitely did think, like, I talked to you sort of before the podcast that I didn't feel as though Wapol was, like, not an amazing antagonist for this. I mean, like, he worked obviously in the context of this arc, but, like, you get this confrontation here, and, like, I certainly didn't expect, like, oh, wait, he's gonna come back and be the main antagonist in this arc. I certainly wasn't expecting that. So that was interesting. Well, like, I think
go on.
It's not something that I feel like often happens in these kind of arcs where like you introduce the main antagonist first before they've even gotten to the destination, and like it's just a little precursor.
Yeah. That's the thing about this arc, is it kind of felt like the reverse of arcs in other ways. Like, compare this to Bradier, where Bradier, they need a chef and they go to a ship with a ton of different chefs. Here they need a doctor and they go to an island with no doctors. So it's like it's a bit of the reverse in that way. And yeah, and like I said, they meet the antagonist first. But what I thought was interesting is that like Luffy handily defeats Wapol.
Yeah.
Like, in the later fight, it isn't like, oh no, this is a guy who's like, Wapol is constantly like running away and trying to get an advantage. Like, it's again, Luffy is stronger than Wapol off the bat, but how they handle it is different in that Luffy defeats him like the first thing, and the later fight, like, yeah, we as an audience know that Wapol is not as strong as Luffy, and that's utilized in the encounter because Wapol needs to get he's trying to eat weapons and stuff to get power so he can actually fight Luffy. and Luffy's just trying to fucking chase his ass down and beat the shit out of him because we know he can. He just needs to fucking do it.
Yeah, that's what I do like about this arc. I mean, it's different, and like I said, I feel like Wapol is a more underwhelming antagonist, but like the arc also sort of treats him as a more underwhelming, like, because like you have this fight, he gets beaten at the start of the arc, so like there you go. There's not really much of a reason to be concerned about a battle.
Like Craig, where it's like,
it is sort of like, Oda sort of like,
he's weaker.
I don't know if I'd say it's subverting what he's done before, but like where this character gets all this build up only to get handily defeated by Luffy. That doesn't happen with Wapol. He is defeated right off the bat, and then he gets defeated again later on. So like, he has this reputation about him. Like a big thing with him later on is status. But it's interesting how like before, characters who had that status, like they were built upon that status, and then it was at the very end where it got knocked down. Whereas here, like, we already know that Luffy can beat Wapol. Like there's no concern about it there. So it's not like he isn't like the other ones before, I guess, were treated as more serious threats. Like Krieg, everyone is talking about, oh my god, Don Krieg, he's so amazing, and then he gets beaten by Luffy.
Right. Well, because I think the difference is like a lot of Luffy's opponents up to this point have been like infamous pirates or Baroque works where they're like hardened criminals, you know. But with Wapol, he was a few months ago he was a king of a country, and then he's most well known for running away. Like that's the thing. It's like when Blackbeard attacked Drum, Wapol ran away with his army. He didn't defend his country at all. Like so you know there's no one to build him up because he's never done anything. So he is just like this nobody. But he is really strong. Like he did keep his island in check for a while, but everyone fucking hates him. So but they don't really like fear him in the same way they do Krieg, you know. So yeah, it's neat how he's, you know, or what's up?
Oh no, nothing. I'm just clearing my throat.
Okay, but yeah, it's neat how he's changing up the structure, or how he's, you know, ordering events. So yeah, then we get to more interesting stuff where they make land on the island, and immediately they are told the reasonable thing, and please pirates, leave. Like that makes sense when you think about it. Like of course they're gonna act like that, but they have a specific reason for acting like that, and you get a really interesting encounter. What did you think about, you know, Vivi getting shot and her criticizing Luffy's captaincy? She even says, like, you know, you're a failure as a captain. Impulsiveness doesn't solve anything. Like, what did you have to think about this moment?
I'll be interested if this does anything with Luffy's character later on, because obviously in this arc, like a big thing for Luffy in this arc was, like, up until the final battle, a big thing was restraint. Like Sanji also builds on this later, where he says, no, you can't fight these guys because you've got Nami, and every attack you take, Nami's gonna feel that. So you gotta, you know, so Luffy has to run really in this arc. Like he does less fighting. Whereas like before, like I've joked about how Oda will always do something at the start of an arc to like to keep the strong characters out of the action. Like, oh, Zoro gets tied up on the ship. I wonder what's gonna happen. Oh, he's captured. That's what.
Yeah. And of course, just that last arc, Sanji's off dicking around in the forest. Luffy's trapped. Zoro's trapped. Like, yeah, exactly.
So like instead of that happening here, it's more of like a character, because Sanji and Vivi had sort of told Luffy this. Luffy's like, well, crap. Now I can't fight, even if I'm the only one here. So I just gotta run. So like it's interesting. I don't know if it's more of like, I don't know if I would see this as something that Luffy's character needs to really grow from, but it's just like Luffy is an idiot. So like when someone tells him to do something, he'll do it. Like or at least in this instance, like, hey, you're too reckless. You're gotta protect Nami. That's why we're here. You gotta be humble. You gotta be show restraint.
He's being put into a situation that he hasn't been in before. Like normally, because normally he would, you know, Vivi got shot. Like, what is his normal reaction to comrades of his getting, you know, hurt or abused? Is, you know, to retaliate against those who did it. But like, that's not going to help the actual situation is, you know, Nami's in danger. So, you know, Vivi is a royal. You know, she knows diplomacy. Luffy's a fighter. You know, so it's like
he sort of just has to do what he's told. Really, like that's his sort of solution. Is like he sees Vivi, you know, bowing her head and saying, hey, we're not, you know, she's like trying to get on their good side, try to show that they don't have malicious intent, and so Luffy just kind of follows her example.
Right, because that's the thing with Luffy, back from Arlong, it's like, he's good at the things he can do, and this is not a situation where the things he can do are the right answer. So he has to, cool his tits, basically. And it's definitely like, yeah, he's not, he can tune down his recklessness if he needs to. He can be more prudent than that. So, and yeah, it's cool.
I also like the recurring gag that pops up in this arc where Luffy is just, he's, just in his sleeveless shirt, and then someone will say, "Hey, aren't you cold?" And then he'll be like, "Oh, it's cold."
Oh yeah, I am cold. Right, because he's just so excited he doesn't even think about things, and then he's reminded. It's like almost like a Looney Tunes thing where it's like he doesn't fall until he sees that there's no ground underneath him, kind of. I think about it. It's very goofy, but speaking of gags, I also love the other one where it's like, a bear, play dead. But like, oh, it's a hiking bear. Just be sure to bow. And then like, there's a couple times when they run into the middle-aged lady who's shopping, and Luffy and himself are like, a bear, and then they bow to her. And it's so stupid, but it's so good because, oh my god. Just little. I like Oda's humor, but I can't really say anything about, other than point it out and say that I like it. So yeah. So anyway, Dalton, he recognizes their restraints. Understands like, hey, these pirates are a little different. Let's bring them in, and he starts to explain kind of like why there are no doctors. And this is a country without a name because the king left. So yeah. And you mentioned the status thing earlier, and like, yeah, there's a very like, because Wapol, he was the former ruler and tyrant, and he separated himself from the people. They were pawns for him to manipulate and have like he just like, I feel like, having control over all the doctors, so I'm gonna exile doctors except for mine. And then, but Dalton, he stays with the people. He's living below down, not in a giant castle above everyone. So yeah, and Dalton's a cool boy. And yeah, they get briefed on the mountain witch doctor who comes down on her flying sleigh to deliver. Instead of cookies, she just takes whatever the fuck she wants, and instead of presents, she gives medical treatment. This twisted old Santa, and of course, Luffy doesn't care about the situation. He's just like, "Hey, Nami, there's a doctor on a mountain. We gotta climb it." But yeah, it's like Luffy can do this. He can take her up there. So yeah, he and Sanji decide to go save her because Sanji's like, Sanji cares about ladies, so of course he's gonna watch Luffy. And yeah, Dalton explains that a pirate named Blackbeard attacked the country.
Blackbeard. That's probably not important.
I mean, well, because like if you've been reading the SBS, you'll notice that Oda names a lot of he names his characters after famous pirates. Like I think Zoro or the Roronoa is like Loanois or something. Like it's French, and I don't have no idea how to pronounce it. But yeah, so he's like, I think Alvida too. Like he just names his characters after pirates, and here he is naming a character after one of the most infamous pirates in history. So it's like, yeah, and of course he's doing this. Like, did I mention this before? I feel like I must have, but it's like Oda loves to do like silhouettes. Like he did it with the Warlords of the Sea, and now he's doing it with the Blackbeard pirates. But like he'll show like ominous silhouettes of these characters that are, that maybe they'll show up later, and the silhouette will be filled out. Though I will say that like a lot of his silhouettes are wrong. Like especially with the Warlords of the Sea, because like they're all roughly the same height in that silhouette thing, and they all have swords, but it turns out like they're not all roughly the same height, and almost none of them have swords. So it's like, his mind changes over the course of the story. So kind of
like what Kishimoto did with the Akatsuki, where it's like, who's the fish?
Yes! Who's the fish? Yes, I did. You're right. I didn't think about the Akatsuki because that was a thing. And so it's like, it's fine. It's normal for the designs to change over the time. But I was also curious as to like which ones were supposed to be which characters and which ones got changed the most. Like what were the original designs like? That's what I'm curious about, because they were such distinct silhouettes. Like these ones are really like simple. Like they look like one pirate seems to have a sword. One has like a big gun over his shoulder. And there's like a really small one off to the side. So like who are they? Like, but they're very like their cloaks or whatever, capes, really hide their silhouettes. So it's like they're not as detailed as the Akatsuki ones were in my memory. Like, or at least the Akatsuki ones betrayed like very distinctive attributes. Like these guys just have like pirate hats and weapons. Like, so there's a different like level of detail to them. So, but yeah, Wapol, Blackbeard attack. Wapol left. Vivi got pissed because she's actually royalty. So she's like, what the fuck? and the country, the people just want to rebuild, but he's just this shadow over them. So anyway, we get a bit where Luffy and Sanji are running. They're just like having a casual chat while being attacked by a lapin, a baby man-eating rabbit. Like they're just talking about stupid shit. Like Luffy's like, "Hey, did you know people in snow countries don't sleep because they'll die?" And Sanji's like, "That's retarded." It's so good. Just good character interaction, and them not giving a fuck.
And then finally, the rabbit jumps in, and Sanji just punts it like a football.
And of course that pisses off the others. And then while that's happening, you have Wapol finally finds the island. Then they find out that the Kureha is not at the castle, and she gets a great I love Kureha. Honestly, I might say she's my favorite like side character so far. Honestly, like she's so good. Like she's such like her fucking abrasive personality, and her just fucking like authority, and like. She just like busts down this fucking door and like, bitch, I'm fucking, where's the sick child? And she's just like, but she helps him and delivers treatment, and she's just really good. What did you think about Kureha overall?
Yeah, good character. I liked her. I didn't really have a whole lot to take away from her. Although now looking at this page spread, I am reminded of the thing I brought up earlier where, cause this is pointed out in the SBS, which is why I think it's interesting that like it's like still because like Chopper, his name, like there's a space, so it's like Tony Chopper, but apparently it's like one word, like Tony and then Chopper. But like because like in the SBS, okay, Oda was like, oh no, there was a typo because it's one word, but then here it's well, two names rather, but here it's three.
Yes, Tony is his first name, and Chopper or other way around. Yeah, Tony would be his surname, and Chopper would be his given name. Like Luffy is his given name.
Yeah, but like here
yeah.
it's like three as opposed to two names. And then it's brought up, and then like after it's brought up in the SBS, I thought like, oh well, maybe Viz just kept it this way to like keep the like so that the SBS didn't seem pointless. But then after the SBS, it's still three names instead of two. So I don't know.
Okay, yeah, I don't know either. But yeah, Luffy's climbing the mountain. He's showing his restraint as much as he wants to fight. But Sanji's also kind of like the worst choice because he can't get a good kickoff. Like if Zoro was here, he'd have his swords, and he doesn't. I mean, maybe they're sharp, so at least they're a little bit more capable if you don't have good footing, I suppose. Though the footwork is really important in sword play. But we're talking about cartoon characters here too. I don't know. Wapol makes land, and well, because Zoro's dicking around. He's just like swimming, and so it's like it kind of goes back to like the strong characters are all like gone when Wapol's here. So it's only like that leaves like things to like Dalton pretty much because he's the only like strong character remaining. And also we get introduced to the third class of Devil Fruit. Like I told you, like this is the first time another one is named, though, because I mentioned that Luffy has a Paramecia type, which are they kind of just affect the body. Like they're kind of the other category. Smoker has a Logia type because he can turn into like an element. Distinction: Mr. 3 is not a Logia. Okay, so I guess to kind of explain the two big points that separate Paramecias from Logias, because people definitely had this were uncertain about some of the details in the past, but like Paramecias have a solid body. Like if you punch Mr. 3, he will get hurt because he can't turn into wax to like evade the blow. And well, Smoker can. And the other distinction is basically what the material, like what they transform into, because like rubber, wax, those are like man-made materials, basically. Like wax, like candle wax does not form in nature. Rubber is processed from a tree. You're right. So, but smoke does occur naturally. Fire occurs naturally. So that's basically the distinction. So elements and man-made materials, basically, is what the distinction between Paramecia and Logia. And of course, zones are animals. So Dalton has the ox fruit, so he transforms into an ox. And Chopper has the human fruit, because humans are animals. So like right off the bat, we're introduced to like a weird example of his own fruit, I think. So just clarifying some things for the future, because some people do have misinterpretations of like, or at least in the past. Hopefully it's better now, but yeah, of what devil fruits are. And not that like there are later exceptions, kind of. That it's weird. But so yeah, the Lapins start an avalanche. Wapol is causing havoc. Dalton steps in. Did you have any thoughts on anything that I passed so far? Because I've been kind of speeding through a couple chapters. though we've already talked about some of this like before. So
yeah, no, nothing really yet.
Okay, but yeah, Dalton gets in a fight with Wapol. You know, he doesn't want this shitty king. But unlike, well, he gets taken down because he cares about the townsfolk, and Wapol doesn't. So very familiar with the tyrants. They always do that shit. Then the avalanche starts. And I like how it's like this, like, what Luffy and Sanji are doing kind of, like, reverberates to the whole island. That's kind of neat. Oh, and so something comes up again where, he and, Luffy and Sanji end up on a tree, and they're coming up to a rock, and Sanji throws Luffy off and takes the hit. He takes the impact, and that goes back to Arlong, where Sanji is sacrificing himself for others, basically. And and even then he was even influenced by Zeph, and Zeph sacrificed his, tried to, he didn't eat anything except his leg for the sake of Sanji. So it's like, yeah, we're building up to more of this character. It's just another moment of his character trait that I hadn't connected before rereading the series. So just thought I'd point that out because it's there. So okay, here's a scene I thought was a little strange. And okay, see, normally I'm the one who understands Luffy's character. But so you have the Loppins. They were just being annoying and attacking Luffy and Nami and Sanji randomly. Then they started the earthquake. Sanji got hurt, and then despite all of that, Luffy saves the Loppin. He pulls it out of the snow. And I thought that was interesting because Luffy's normally not heroic. Would you read that moment as heroic? Like, what did you think? Did you have a thought on that as you read it? Did you just like gloss over it or what?
I don't know. I just kind of glossed over it. I didn't think anything of it.
Like, I mean, if I had to guess, it's like Luffy doesn't kill, even monsters like, Krieg and Arlong, and, Kuro, like, he never kills anyone. So, but I don't know if he outright has a no-death code. Like, it's not like with...
no, because, there have been moments where he's been fighting people before, and he's like, oh, they're not dead? Almost as if, he expected maybe they were dead.
Well, because I know Zoro... maybe... Yeah, see, I'm not sure if that's I don't think Luffy would, avoid... and he tried to kill Zoro when he thought Zoro killed the bounty hunters. So it's I don't think Luffy would necessarily not kill, but it hasn't really been brought up so far. So it just... I don't know. I'm not saying this moment is out of character, but it definitely seems a bit strange for his character. But then again, maybe not that strange, but because he's just randomly helping a former antagonist. And he barely even helps like with Baratier, he's like, I'll help you if you alleviate my debt, or stuff like that. So it just seems a little weird, I guess. Maybe someone in the comments will have something I didn't notice, because I mean it becomes relevant later when the Loppins help Luffy when Wapol attacks. Because Wapol comes in and he's being a dick, and Luffy can't fight, and the Loppins save him, but, yeah.
Well, I'm trying to think if any of the other antagonists have, showed any sort of, loyalty to each other. I don't know if that's something Luffy, can sympathize with. Because, I mean, he's also got, Nami and Sanji with him, so, he's protecting them. So, I don't know if he sees this other creature trying to protect this other one. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Oh, duh. Luffy connects to things, and he saw the baby Loppin caring more about, protecting its, damn it, I'm a fool. That makes sense. Okay. And of course, and then that's followed up with Loppins protecting Luffy. So, okay, yeah, that makes, when you put it under the lens of see, I didn't think about Bleach hard enough. Was my issue. I didn't go back to protection. But anyway, yeah, so yeah, Luffy is able to make it to the mountain, and he as of fucking, I think there's one part where his hands are fucking bloody. The anime even went a little further with it, because there's the part where he slides down, I think you could see streaks of red in the stone he crushed as he slid down. It's a little painful looking. But yeah, he climbs. Yeah. We cut back to the bottom of the mountain with Vivi and did you have anything else to say on the Luffy reaching the castle, or probably not?
No, yeah, the climb in the rock was pretty painful, and then I was wondering is he gonna fall? Is he gonna make it? I don't know, cause I don't know. There's even that point where he drops Sanji, and he's like, oh no, he's got to catch him. So I was like, is his body
Right,
going to
right.
make it? But no, he made it. It's a good-looking castle.
Yep. Well, and then like once he made it, it starts to collapse, but he gets saved by a mysterious a big dude with a hat that looks familiar. Who is this mysterious? But yeah, it's anyway, we cut back to Vivi and Usopp, and Usopp's like almost like passing out from the cold, and Vivi just beats the fucking shit out of him. Yeah, you're swollen from the frostbite. Yeah, that must be hits. Fucking Vivi, like she's
And
so
of
good.
course, like, she's just dragging him around by the nose, because that's what you do with Usopp.
Yes, and well, even better is like right after that, like Zoro sees like Vivi, and he like looks at Usopp, and it zooms in on the nose, and he's like Usopp. Like, that's how he recognizes him. And he's just like out in the fucking wilderness with no swords. And they get back to the town, and it's being attacked by Wapol's soldiers. And Zoro's just like, those guys from before. And he runs up and fucking punches one. And then he's like, clothes? Like, no, that's the only reason he was. See, this is why I was like, had to think about the Lopin moment before. Because the Straw Hats don't just do nice things. Like, Usopp and Vivi didn't get involved in the fighting. Zoro was the first one involved in the fighting. Not because he wanted to do the right thing, but because he wanted warm clothes. Like, the Straw Hats. Oh my god. Did you have any more moments on the Vivi, Usopp, Zoro stuff? Or any thoughts on that? It was just a small thing, but just kind of moving. Like, these are where the characters aren't dead.
Yeah.
So anyway, we go back to the castle, and I love all the I guess the aesthetic of the castle, like with all the fucking science shit and fucking torture tools and skulls, and like Kureha's design sense is interesting.
Yeah, I really
to
like
say
the
least.
intricacy of like this room setup. Like, there's so many little details drawn into this. Just these little establishing shots.
Right, like the chair, and like and even then it's like there's like a bat on the chair, and like the skulls, and like there's a lot of it's iron, like because I mean her stuff is probably taken from like villagers, so she probably just like took what she thought looked nice, you know, and whatever works.
You've got this little like contraption
it's
she's made where like you have this like ice pack sitting on Nami's forehead, hanging off the handle of an axe. So like on the other side is this axe. That's not dangerous.
Yep, you're right. It is. I didn't notice that. I didn't notice that it was. I saw the axe, but it's because she. I'm pretty sure she grabs it later, but I didn't notice that it was tied to her ice pack. Like, and then we get introduced to Chopper, and like it's interesting. Like looking at him even at this first panel and comparing him to like at the end of the arc. Like he slowly gets cuter across the series in general. But even in just this arc alone, he gets, like, a little cuter. Because apparently, like, Oda didn't want him to be, like, a mascot character like Bleach had Kon. Hunter x Hunter doesn't really have one. But, like, I'm trying to think of examples that you would know. Because, like, a lot of, like, a Fairy Tail has a Happy, Rave Master has Plu. Like, a lot of these action shonen series, like, maybe it's an editor thing or a magazine thing, but they try to give these... It's a marketing thing, I guess, where they try to give these characters a small little marketable thing so they could sell stuff. And apparently Oda didn't want Chopper to be that, so he designed him to be, like, less cute at first. Like, his muzzle's way more pronounced, and he doesn't look adorable in the same way he does even by the end of the arc. So, just a slight change in the design.
Well, I don't know. I think by the characterization... that Chopper gets in this arc, like it's fine. He's more than just a mascot character. He has an actual personality and story. So like, if he's also cute, that's fine.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting how he changes pretty quick. Well, like, no, Usopp also changed pretty quickly, like, because it's like, but from his first appearance to like just in Baradier and stuff, where his nose is already starting to get a little bit more longer, and parts of it, like, it bends and stuff, like he's using it more in the gags, the visual gags. But just little design changes. Like, I'm sure if you pick up Volume 1, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, that art's different. Like, but it's still pretty fresh in your memory, I'm sure.
I like this gag of Chopper trying to like hide behind a corner, but he does it backwards.
He's so cute and stupid. Yeah, because, well, you see, he's also like Luffy and Usopp in that he's childish. Because he's younger. I think he's 15, where Usopp and Luffy are 17. But he's a reindeer, too. And so of course he didn't have that human experience of growing up.
Yeah, he does come off as more of a child than like the rest of them. Like, I guess it's just like his story or his. Well, I mean, I guess I won't. It doesn't matter. I mean, we'll get to it eventually.
We'll get to it later. But well, because he's even just smaller in general, which makes him feel more like a child. But he can get bigger.
I guess that's
and
the
that's
obvious
the thing
too.
But like, well, even then, but even big characters, like I think of like Lenny from Of Mice and Men. Like even big characters are still written to be dumb and childish at times, because the juxtaposition, so he's kind of like, he, even though he can get bigger, he still comes across as childish. So yeah, he does, because he does definitely come off as more childish than Luffy and Usopp, because he doesn't have the life experience, I suppose, and he's literally raised in a jungle. Or a frozen wasteland, if you will. But Kureha comes in, and she explains to Nami her sickness, and that it would have killed her. And of course, it's like Kureha's like super old, so of course she would be the one to have a cure for a fucking prehistoric disease, right?
Yeah. Can I just say, I do like... Now, I'm probably just saying this because I'm so accustomed to anime tropes, but... Because like, when Kureha checks her stomach, she, like, just grabs her shirt and lifts it up, and that's usually where the anime is like, but she's a girl, duh. But that doesn't happen here. Like, it's just, there's your wound.
She's a professional, yeah.
Because there'd be no reason for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I would assume that hopefully the anime takes it the same way. Because there's no reason for it to happen here. And I'm just nitpicking now. What am I doing?
No. Well, I was gonna say because if it was Mashima doing it in Fairy Tail or something like that, you would have seen the boobs, the underboob or something. Like it would have been drawn to be more.
Well, it's not even necessarily about how it's drawn. I guess I'm thinking more of like how the character reacts. Like Nami doesn't freak out and get flustered or anything.
I see how you mean. Yeah.
But again, like I don't know why I'm nitpicking this.
But I mean, it helps that Kureha's a woman, so yeah. Okay, yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe that it doesn't matter at all.
Kureha's design is so like she has the body of one of Oda's normal females, but her face is she's just like super old. So it's like, well, because she's always when she first sets in, it's like she really wants to explain the secret of her youth, but like so she keeps mentioning like that, but no one cares. Like
I got to admit though that
it's a funny
now that I look at her design again, Kureha is pretty aesthetic. Like I love the pants where it's got like the one half is just the straight black and then you've got like the striped white. It's good.
She's very fashionable, even though she's 104. She was actually born and an adult when Dory and Brogy started fighting.
Oh my god.
So it's like yeah. Anyway, Luffy and Sanji try to eat Chopper because he's food, and then we find out that when Luffy got up to the castle, he wanted even though he was weakened and frozen and stuff, he of course was more concerned about Luffy and Sanji, and of course he mentions the word friends, which Chopper's a little awkward about.
Yeah, I do. So I do like the moment where she's checking on Nami, and then Luffy, even though he's pretty much unconscious. He's still with his bloody hands just grabs her and she's like, my friends, you can't hurt my friends, even though he can't really do anything. It's good. Mm-hmm. Luffy's good.
Yep. So anyway, Luffy wants Kureha to join the crew because she's a doctor, but obviously she's not having that. Oh, and I like the little bit where Chopper goes in to see Nami and, because he doesn't want her to get out of bed. And she it's really cute when Chopper gets complimented and he's like, I don't accept thanks from humans. He talks shit about them for complimenting him and but he obviously loves the compliment. But that's the thing is because he's neither human or a reindeer. He's he's a freak in between. His self-confidence is in the shitter. The poor dude. So any little compliment, he's he fucking adores it, but he doesn't accept it either. And it's cute, but it's also kind of sad. Chopper's, and we get to we're almost to the backstory. Oh my god. Oh man. Chopper's cute and good. Chopper's good. They're all the Straw Hats are good. That's a rule.
Another thing that's really interesting about this arc compared to other we need to recruit this person arcs is that for starters, you have Luffy trying to, he obviously knows that Kureha's a doctor, so he's like, hey, you join my crew. Meanwhile, Nami is over here sort of befriending Chopper, and like, she's the one who first extends the invitation to him, which is interesting, because, like...
That is pretty rare, yeah. That, like, it's always Luffy who's excitedly asking people to join.
But, like, so far Luffy hasn't had a chance to really get to know Chopper or anything. And, of course, like, by the end of the arc, he doesn't really know anything about Chopper's story. He just sees him and he's like, oh, it's a cool reindeer. Why not join us? And he
didn't even know, exactly, he didn't even know he was a doctor. That was the, like, he's like, why do you think we brought Chopper in the crew? And Luffy's like, cool reindeer monster? And Sanji's like, emergency food supply? Like, they don't even know that he's a doctor. Fucking Luffy. But of course, like, once because Nami does, she extends invitation pretty soon, too. But Chopper, like, he's a reindeer. He can't live with humans. He doesn't want to go to the outside world. Like, he's been treated shit like here. Like, how's the outside gonna be? And then, but like, well, because you get the moment later where, Sanji and Luffy are about to close the door, but there's the snowbirds on top, and like, they see that Chopper has like a heart. He's not a monster, and that's when Luffy's like, hey, he's a monster, he could shape change. I want him to join my fucking crew. Like, that's when it shifts, when he connects to him a little bit and starts to understand Chopper. So yeah, it's good.
I also just sort of like Kureha's personality, or rather like the way she sort of treats Chopper. Like, she's like, oh, you're trying to seduce my reindeer without permission? And Nami's like, oh, I need permission. And she's like, no, take him. But, I mean, because, like...
Right. She's like Zeph in that she wants Chopper to go and follow his dreams and adventure and, see the world. But, like, he's held back by his, hang-ups and issues, because like we see his backstory and it's like even from birth he had a blue nose, so he's just like almost never had like a belonging. Like, he's always been the weird reindeer, then he ate a devil fruit, and then he tried to connect the humans because, oh, I ate the human fruit, I'm a human now. But nope, he's there, abominable snowman, fucking shoot it. Like, Chopper, just like, it's Chopper. But anyway, Wapol arrives, unless you had anything else to say.
Well, I mean, I do think there is also just that moment where Luffy and Sanji are like, monster! And then, Chopper's walking away, and Luffy's like, what an interesting guy. Let's recruit him.
Yeah, it's because Chopper, like, hears monster and is like, oh yeah, they're humans, of course, they're gonna see me that way. But he doesn't see the whole thing, because, like, well, that's the thing, I think Sanji even says it later. Luffy's a monster. Like, I love that fucking smile when he says it, too. Like, Sanji's so good when he's like, yeah, Luffy's a rubber man. So in other words, he's a monster. Like, because that's the thing, is, like, Chopper, he's always seen himself as this freak. And, like, at this point in the Grand Line, things are weird. But in the broader scope of the world, Chopper is obscenely normal. Like, there's nothing weird about a reindeer who's eating a devil fruit. Like, he sees himself as a monster because of, his backstory and just everyone and is just shitty self-confidence as a result. But, like, yeah, Luffy has always been a monster pretty much since the beginning of the series, when he was ridiculously strong, So yeah.
Yeah, so I like how
if you want to get down to it, Wapol's a monster
too. Recontextualization of like monster, because for like Luffy, when he calls Chopper like, wait, monster, join my crew, it's like more of like a term of endearment.
Exactly, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Because Luffy he likes cool things. And like, he was gushing about Mr. 3's robot form. Like, if Mr. 3 wasn't an enemy, he'd be like, hey, you're a weird freak, join my crew.
Really,
that's because it's Luffy.
The Straw Hats, other than like maybe Nami, you could probably even make a case for Nami that like, they're a group of monsters, basically, like in one way or another.
Yeah. I mean, even like Nami has her weird, sixth sense for the weather. But yeah, she and Usopp are definitely the least monsterish. But yeah, Zoro and Sanji are also pretty crazy strong. Like, Zoro's just fucking, his will and endurance, like, he almost cut off his feet. He's a monster. But anyway, Wapol comes in. Dalton was dug out of the snow, and he's dying. And we get I guess I mentioned it to you before. I think it was off recording. Maybe it was earlier in the podcast. But like, we get a great, like, a little brick joke where Luffy gum bull, and then it's like 7 or 8 chapters of flashback. It's just like, and it's a really good spread of him punching Wapol in the fucking face. But like, it's just a weird bookend to this flashback. Which is it the best flashback so far? The Nami one was really good too, though. So it's hard. I'm trying to pick. And the Sanji one was also good.
Yeah, like, I don't know. This one might be more personal or like personally relatable, just because it tackles just sort of like this idea of like just insecurity and sort of like discrimination, which is...
insecurity, discrimination, hope, status if you count the Wapol stuff.
But in saying that though, I probably still prefer the Nami flashback.
Legacy,
even though that's more of like a, I don't know. Like, this is also very much so a tug at, really a lot of it, I'd probably say all the flashbacks are like tug at your heartstrings flashbacks, or at least like with the straw hat flashback.
Yeah. And well, they both this one and the Nami one made me cry twice, but I think the Nami one made me cry harder, so I might have to give the slight edge to that one. But this one's also really good because we get introduced to fucking Hiriluk, who's a shitty doctor, and he's just like, but he doesn't he steals money. Don't make such a fuss over a burning house. Oh, and I didn't notice that he like his fucking second page if you count the silhouette before. He's coughing up blood, which becomes important later. But he's like a guerrilla doctor busting into houses and forcing his medicine onto people because they won't accept it otherwise. Like, he fucking shoots the wife with an Anastasia pistol. But I love this as a panel of her just like, let me treat you, bang. It's so fucking stupid. I love it. He just like comes in. Well, because he's like the opposite of Kureha. Like, he heals people for free, but he's shit at it. Kureha's a great doctor, but of course she takes money. He's like they're both like. I mean, they both can be mean and nice though. So, but yeah, Hiriluk wants to save the kingdom with his medicine because the kingdom is suffering under this tyrant, and everyone, like, no one knows what, like, they're completely helpless and there's nothing they can do. But he wants to save the island somehow. So, and he explains his ideas later, but he does run into Chopper and he wants to heal him, but Chopper is, of course, he's only been rejected, and so he tries to reject Hiriluk the same way. But Hiriluk manages to get Chopper to lower his guard. And this is the first part I cried, when Chopper wakes up and he bites into bread and he starts crying because he's finally been accepted by someone. Chopper. Did you have any thoughts about Hiriluk or this opening bit so far?
I mean, yeah, he's a weirdo.
Did you say? Yep. Say, I like when he first is talking to Chopper and he's like, so what if you can talk? That's nothing to brag about. Like, he's kind of like, he's rudely putting Chopper's ability to speak as he's normalizing it. He's like, oh, that's not special. I can talk even better. Like, he's putting him on the same level. Like, he's being a little mean about it, but he's also like trying to make Chopper less awkward, because he's like, I'm a reindeer. I'm not supposed to talk. But Hiriluk's like, Hiriluk's very good and connecting to him because poor Chopper has had a rough life so far. Also, he says that the name Tony comes from Tonakai. I think it's supposed to be Tanuki. Tonakai does mean reindeer. Okay. Oh, I see now. I understand. I'm an idiot. Because he gets called Tanuki, like the raccoon thing, because he's small. Like, that's a thing. Because when he's big, he gets called a gorilla. When he's small, he gets called a Tanuki. And when he's in his but he's a reindeer. So I'm mixing it up with later gag. So that's my bad. And I didn't know that Tonakai meant reindeer. So, yep, Chopper gets a name. Oh, and then we get a really interesting part where we cut to Wapol and Dalton and see what they're up to, and their idea of leadership is that it's a strong leadership. We're oppressing the people to keep them controlled, and stuff. But Dalton flashes back to meeting a certain little girl at a certain council of kings. The first panel is really interesting because it's like, oh, this revolutionary named Dragon is spreading his ideas in 5 or 6 years. And it's like, hey, that face looks familiar.
In 5 or 6 years? Well, it's the flashback about 6 years ago?
Yep, and now he's suggesting that he'll be a formidable enemy of the government, and now he's a wanted man. And also, this is remember I mentioned there was Nami opened up the paper at the start of the Logtown arc, and she's like, oh, a coup d'etat in Vera. The world is in such turmoil. Dragon's a revolutionary, the kind of person who would start a coup d'etat. So it's like they've referenced that the world is like having like lots of coups d'etats and revolts. In the same arc, we get introduced to Dragon, and now we're finding out that he's a revolutionary and he's spreading ideas that threaten this Council of Kings. So it's like, oh yeah, Oda had that in mind back in Logtown. Good to know. So yeah, it's just like everything can be foreshadowing.
Yeah, and this is also where I talked about like a lot of like more stuff going on with background characters, because you get a little more like not much elaboration, but like a tiny little bit more going into Dragon.
Yeah, we get like a reference to him, like, and it's this big fucking photo that's just like very eye catching, and it's like, oh shit, like, you know, we do get a tidbit more about him, but like, and it's used to like character Wapol doesn't give a shit, like, we won't suffer at the hands of outsiders. Oops, oh no, pirates gotta run, and then of course we get a brief introduction to the cool king of Alabasta, Cobra, he's arguing with Wapol. Of course, summer and winter don't mix. Winter and sand and snow. And then we get like Vivi being, she's at that age, at age 10, she still had that reservation and ability to control herself that she impressed on Luffy at the start of the arc. And avoided a war because Wapol's this fucking big child, spoiled brat, and Vivi's at age 10, and that's what, and that is like, Dalton's like, what the fuck, like, I'm following this shithead over when Vivi exists and is like so strong, like, and of course that's where his issues come, his starting to form with it's good, just because it's world building, but it's also character building and conflict. It's good. So anyway, Hiriluk then introduces like another idea of the arc that I was thinking on. Sort of like how I took it was like hope, and because the country has been like oppressed by this shithead for so long, and the everyone's heart, like, because that's the thing is like Hiriluk isn't a doctor of the body, he's a doctor of the heart, because like actually if you do research into like historical doctoring, like witch doctors and stuff, they like were there to kind of like fix morale more than actual like doctoring and stuff, because like if you're like people who are depressed actually I think they get sick more. I have to do research into that, but like if you are not in good like mental health, like you will get sick more. Like this is actually like a thing, and that's what Hiriluk is. He is a doctor of the heart, and he wants to cure the country's morale, because he himself like the way, because we find out like, because he says that like he talks about a thief that saw cherry blossoms and got the world, he got cured, so there's a cure for everything, but as we find out, I'm just explaining, I don't know, did you have any thoughts on this before I keep going, or okay? I'm sorry, okay, just because people are like, oh, Craftsdwarf, you're just interrupting Mathwiz, and I'm like, well, I mean, you say stuff sometimes, but like obviously I have more thoughts. I've been sitting on this material for longer.
This is my first time going through, so of course I'm not going to pick up on everything. So like for a lot of this, for me, it's like, this stuff was cool, good to know, but like I'm not picking up on the themes. Well,
but then like later on we found out that Hiriluk is like, Hiriluk was the thief who saw the cure all of cherry blossoms. But he's not actually cured. He's still like, he coughed up blood in the second page he was on. He's still sick, and like that's the thing. At the end of the flashback, he's dying of his sickness, the poison, and then he blows himself up. Poor fucking dude. Like, yeah, but like, so the way I see it is that like his disease wasn't cured, but what was killed, like, because he was like freaking out about the fact that he was going to die, because he says like, because he's describing himself in the story, he says he nearly went mad when he learned that he was going to die, but then he saw the cherry blossoms, and his the way I see it is that his will to live was restored. Even though like everyone dies, but he was decided to have hope and live more, and now because he's done that, now he's like inspiring Chopper with those very same ideas, like his to go back to the familiar aspect, his quote unquote son. So it's like and now sure, Chopper. So I don't. Chopper is, he also believes disease to be incurable, but Hiriluk did die of an incurable disease. But maybe, I don't know, maybe there will be a cure eventually. So, yeah, but it's good. It tugs at the heartstrings a little bit, because I like that idea. And though I guess I also want to mention that because I feel like, because I think I've seen people like misinterpret the moment and think that he was actually cured. I guess they forgot that he wasn't. So yeah, that's oh well. It's just a couple of people though. So, but Chopper becomes Hiriluk's apprentice, and they pal around for about a year. Did you have anything else to say? No, just flipping through these pages.
I do like the one where it's just a full, like, not a 2-page spread, but it's a solid page of just a good montage of like moments between.
Yeah, with no dialogue, just like they're chopping firewood, they're doing science, they're running from townspeople, it's just good, and they're so cute and having fun. And then Chopper's healed, so he's like, okay, bye. You don't need to be here but he chases him off because he's going to die and he doesn't want Chopper to see it.
And it's
sad.
And I like it also because like it's sort of similar to like what we saw with Coby way back when, where like you could say that like maybe Chopper sort of developing this kind of like Chopper had no friends and now like he has this one friend and so he's become kind of dependent on the Doctor. So
yes,
like he does need to go off on his own, and so like obviously if the Doctor's gonna die,
Chopper's even more needy than
like that'll break his heart.
Yeah,
and then
he can't stay.
That'll be
right.
it for Chopper. No more.
And Chopper's even more needy than Cody because like Coby has his like purpose to be a Marine and a connection to Luffy, but he also needs to learn to fight on his own. Chopper, he does need to learn to be himself, but like the one person he's connected to in his life is now just another betrayer, and so like the poor fucking reindeer. But yeah, of course it makes sense once you like what. Hiriluk doesn't want to do that, but he doesn't have long left.
Yeah, and I do think it's also the one panel where he like headbutts something or whatever, and he's like, "Look, Doctor, I'm hurt." So like that's his way. Like he wants to stay with the Doctor. He's like, "If I'm cured, then I just gotta hurt myself again." And then the Doctor shoots at him because like, no, you can't inflict self-harm on yourself because that's not gonna. You need to take care of yourself, Chopper.
Right. Because Chopper's not.
It's that tough love where he's like, "I'm getting rid of you. I'm pushing you away so you can grow and be better." Because then you get the panel of just him crying and he's like, "Forgive me."
Then but Chopper does eventually get an idea, and he just like I love how like he resolutely he runs into the tree and his expression doesn't even change. He just gets up and he keeps going to find the mushroom, and the fucking Hiriluk was like, "The flag represents faith and freedom." And Chopper sees the skull and crossbones in the book. It's like, this mushroom, faith, freedom, rejecting the impossible.
It is poisonous.
Oh,
it's a
Chopper.
poisonous mushroom. And the Doctor eats it because...
And he even fucking meets his, like, old family. And so he fights them briefly and loses he loses an antler but gets it reattached. Like you actually see the metal like attaching part in the present. It's so good. But yeah, Chopper, he got the mushroom, like even though he's very much like how Correa puts it, they're both clumsy, even though he doesn't know anything about medicine, he's got the heart to help people and cure them. So that's the thing. Well, that's like what I thought was really interesting about the juxtaposition between Correa and Hiriluk is that like Hiriluk doesn't accept money, because yeah, he's a shitty doctor, but his treatment is spreading hope and optimism and helping people just like by helping their hearts, and that doesn't cost anything. And maybe it's a cheesy message, but I like it. It doesn't cost anyone to give someone hope. And that's I think it's good. And because that's and by doing that he saved Chopper and made someone who can be he's a doctor with the heart of Hiriluk and the capabilities of Correa. He's able to do both and be better to surpass his predecessors. And it's so good because that's the thing. It's like Hiriluk also, as we find out later with the Ishii 20. The doctors that Wapol has is like they help Dalton free of charge because of Hiriluk. Like he is able to he does work to save the country. So his actions are reasonable, and yeah. But Hiriluk asks Correa to teach Chopper, and also he gives her the dust. His cure for the country, and then Hiriluk hears that the doctors are sick, all of them. Did I pass up anything? Or
no?
Okay, cool. So yeah, Hiriluk breaks into the castle with guns and bombs. Like, I'm a doctor, boom. And he does not follow the Hippocratical oath at all. But yeah, Correa finds Chopper, tells him that his mushroom is poisonous, and that Chopper needs to. He needs medical skills if he wants to actually cure anyone. Like, so there's like, yeah, there's the two extremes. Hiriluk has no medical skills, but he thinks every disease can be cured. But not everything can be cured. So Correa has to give him some of that reality. Though Chopper still has the hope. Like after the Hiriluk stuff, he waves the flag and tells Correa that he still wants to be a doctor that can cure everything. And so. Yeah, it's good. That's because that's his ambition. All the Straw Hats have to have a goal, and Chopper wants to be a doctor who can cure everything. But yeah, Hiriluk reaches the castle, and the doctors are fine. So he gives himself up. He doesn't, and he gives his. This is a very quotable line. A lot of people love this one because when does a man die? When they eat poison soup, when they're shot, when they get get sick? No, it's when they're forgotten. And that's like, that goes to that's an idea that, it was also there in Logtown. So I feel like because I thought about it more and it's like kind of been present so far, but just the idea of like inherited will. So with Sanji, Zeph gave, he gave everything to Sanji so that Sanji could achieve the dream. He inherited, Zeph's will to find the All Blue. Chopper inherited Hiriluk's will to cure the hearts of people, and cure all diseases. And also in Logtown, Luffy, by proclaiming that he was the one, he was going to be the Pirate King, by being as free as possible on when literally being captured by Buggy, he in like the fucking world, destiny started to save him after that point. So it's like it's a running, because like look at Roger's speech right after that happened. Like Roger directly mentions inherited will, and as long as people fight for freedom, so it's like it's a recurring idea.
Yeah, and you also have the same thing with Zoro and Kuina.
Fuck! I was thinking about Kuina's dad for some reason, not Kuina herself. Yeah, that's a good. You're right. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a recurring idea, and here he is, kind of like a man doesn't die until he is forgotten. Roger will. Zeph. Even if Zeph died, Sanji would still remember him, and that will continue to be inherited. And here it is again with Hiriluk, even though he's dying. So yeah. And his actions do. They change the doctors eventually, as like a few years later. They do help Dalton, but Dalton changes immediately and betrays Wapol because, the country cannot continue to exist in despair, and Hiriluk's actions have, they're inspiring change, it's a static character arc for you. A character stays true to their ideals and the world changes around them. And he also saves Chopper. And I think this was the second time I started crying because just Chopper, oh god. And Dalton's golden line of medicine can't cure stupid. Did you have any other thoughts about the rest of the flashback?
Well, then, of course, you do get Chopper, like, he goes to Kureha, and he says, well, there's where you get his goal, because all the members of the Straw Hats, they have a grand goal they want to achieve. Yeah, that's and Chopper, he'll make himself the miracle cure. He'll become the doctor who can cure everything.
Yep. Yeah, I already mentioned that. So, yeah, no, exactly. Chopper, because Chopper's got a. Oh, I didn't notice. There's the Hiriluk grave there. There's the hat on a stick, and the panel on the top. I didn't notice that before.
Oda.
Fuck. But and then so yeah, Dalton gets captured and imprisoned. Wapol's still the king for now, and then it immediately cuts from Wapol laughing his ass off about his word is law, he's the tyrant, and then Luffy just punching him in the fucking face, and it's so good because fuck Wapol, piece of shit, asshole.
See, like, this is where I sort of, I could maybe see a complaint being thrown here, like, whoa, there's this big flashback in the middle of a punch, like, what's with this timing? But like, it definitely does, like, because up till this point, Wapol hasn't been. Like I said earlier, he hasn't been much of an intimidating antagonist, but by like throwing this flashback in here, I really can't think of like where else you would put it, because then like when Luffy, like, there's this tremendous weight behind this punch now, because like and that's
because not Luffy's not.
Well, yeah, because like the weight is conveyed in the panel, and like the weight of that punch is conveyed in the flashback, because like yes. Wapol may not have been a very intimidating figure in the present time, but like his actions in the past, like his
his control of the, like, because it's not just a Chopper flashback, it's also a Hiriluk, Dalton, and Wapol flashback where we're learning more like what Wapol's influence of the country and how it's affected the lives of the people and the doctors within it who have avoided him. And now, so yeah, you're right. That's a good way of putting it. It's like the weight of the punch literally has the weight of the flashback behind it now in the audience's mind. Luffy, of course, doesn't give a fuck because he doesn't know any of that, nor does he really care. Wapol's being a bitch.
Pissed at Wapol
he's
for
already fought
eating
Luffy.
his ship.
Yeah. Well, also he was attacking them while he was trying to save Nami.
Oh yeah, that too.
Like, he's like, because like after he punches him, he's like, I don't have to hold back anymore, because he no longer has Nami on his back, so he can just fight freely. So he's just pissed.
Maybe I like preferred. Maybe I actually like Wapol more than I was giving him credit for, because like I did say he was sort of underwhelming, but like I mean, he's definitely I like this arc in that like, because I guess I'm revisiting something I already said in this podcast, but like like this very episode even. But I like how the sort of like Luffy holding back, I feel like maybe it feels more organic here. I don't know, like it's never not organic, I guess, but like before, like when like the like the rock gets dropped on him and he can't move, I'm like, oh, here it is. This is gonna lead to a thing. But like here, like
Yeah, but here it's, well, because it's like, I guess with that, it's like that just kind of happens. Same with Arlong even. He just like, Luffy gets stuck and Arlong picks up. But with this arc, it's more of a continuous thing that's been built up since the last chapter of the previous arc. The last chapter of Little Garden had Nami getting sick. So that builds, like, so it makes sense that Luffy has to be handicapped, but it's not like just a sudden thing. It's a continuous thing. Yeah, I think that makes it more organic.
Yeah, there you go. It's more continuous. Like it. Yeah, there you said it.
Yeah. And I was going to say something because like Wapol, like as a quote unquote villain, like a character, he's not as good, but for the story he works. Like he's almost more like, it's more about what how he leads to the ideas. Like again, he's tyranny. He impresses his he exerts his freedom. Well, because like I said in the beginning of the arc, he's used to being able to do whatever he wants. So he's kind of similar to Luffy in that way. But the difference is that Luffy's freedom never steps on anyone else's toes. Like Luffy never hurts people or gets in their way unless they oppose him, and that's what Wapol is doing. He's opposition. He's also like the fact that he has the power to turn the country. Like he nearly killed Dalton pretty easily. He can, because he doesn't care about the country, he can pretty easily control it again. So he's this this looming cloud. That's because he only ran away. And now he's back. So it's like the country could return to its shitty state once again. Even though now they've been given a chance to rebuild and fix their country, but that cloud of Wapol was still hanging over them, so they need that guy to go so they can have hope again. Yeah. So like he's fine for the ideas. Like I could see like I as an individual villain, like he doesn't have a backstory. He's not a very nuanced character. But like it's not always about that. It's about what they offer for the story. So yeah. Like watch Alexander's 2-part video on Genthru if you want more on that. But yeah, we get the moment earlier where I mentioned that, or unless you had any other thoughts on that. We get the moment that I mentioned earlier where Sanji happily tells Chopper that Luffy is a monster. I love that smile. Sanji has such good smiles. Like, I wonder if maybe it's because, like, Oda draws the gums? Like, I don't see that. I don't see that often, at least not from memory. Like, maybe I'm just misremembering. But, like, it's not as often that I remember characters, like, smiling and you see the gums in their mouth, because that's just natural, but it's cool. Maybe I'm just noticing it here, though. But yeah, the fights get started, and... Oh, no, well, first, we get the flag, and, what it represents, because Luffy, that's what Luffy gets serious about, the pirate flag, because Wapol is kind of like Kuro, in that he's a pretend pirate. He's a pirate who doesn't want to be a pirate, So he was flying the flag randomly, just because, pretty much. So he doesn't respect Hiriluk's flag. Oh yeah, and then you do get a bit of Sanji, where because he's too weakened to really fight, but he does defend Kureha. Oh yeah, and Wapol does interrupt in the fighting, but Luffy immediately steps in, and Wapol is just, he can't. We know that Wapol isn't strong. So yeah, did you have anything to... Oh, and we get the moment earlier where the doctors were changed by Hiriluk and they saved Dalton. Did you have anything to say about the pre-fighting, or should we get into the individual fights?
Yeah, let's just get into the fighting.
Yeah, okay, because, Wapol, he quote-unquote fuses Kuro and Marimo by mostly fusing their clothes together, and then they're just, standing on each other. But yeah, the fights get set up. Oh, no, well, yeah, Wapol tries to take down the flag, but Luffy's, he's fighting, he's trying to tramp on the pride of that idea, and Luffy defends it. So, Dalton does get healed, and he wants to go take down Wapol. There is a cool moment from Usopp where, he offers to carry Dalton up to the mountaintop, though, of course, nothing comes of it because Usopp's not that strong, but I like that Usopp's, willing to help someone else fight. That's pretty... Because I feel like he's changing slightly from, and he has, again, he has, going back to the honor idea, Dalton has his things he wants to fight for and stand for, and Usopp's going to respect that. So, yeah. But, yeah, Luffy saves the flag, gives Wapol shit, and then we get Chopper versus Kuro Marimo. or no, Chess Marimo. Kuro Marimo's the just the one guy. So yeah, what did you think about Chopper's fight and his abilities?
Pretty uninteresting, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like he has, well, it's interesting in the context of this setting for me, because like Chopper, he invented a drug that allows him to manipulate his devil fruit in ways that like isn't normal. Like he's a zone with 7 forms. So in a way, it actually makes him more of a monster because he's beyond other zones. Because normally, like they even pointed out, like zones have like 3 forms. They have the animal form, the human form, and then the mixed form. Like his normal tiny form is his mixed form, his half human, half reindeer. He's got his natural reindeer form, and then his big human form. And then he's got like we only see 3 more forms. Yeah, we see the jumping point, the guard point, and the arm point. But yeah, as far as a fight,
like I think his abilities have potential. Like they could be interesting. They could be integrated in an interesting way. But in this fight, it's like here's an ability, here's an ability, here's an ability, and that's just kind of it.
Right. It's just showing off his powers. Like he can jump really high, but only within the time limit of the rumble ball.
So like it's
and he has his arms.
It's an effective introduction of his powers, but at the same time, it's not like maybe I guess it's less effective if it's not an interesting fight. I don't know. I just didn't particularly care for it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It's just kind of like these are his powers, and like it's the art's like his art's always good. Just the dynamicism to it and such. But like yeah, it's a fight like technical. What's going on here? Emotional. I didn't feel much. Ideological. Like what's the conflict here? Like it's just like it's a fight to establish his abilities pretty much. So and look cool. Like yeah. At least maybe there's something that I'm missing, but yeah.
Yeah, because like Wapol's subordinates aren't really interesting in any way.
Yeah, they're just kind of like minions. Yeah, they're not.
Although
yeah, I mean, because like we've been saying how Wapol himself isn't much, but at least like he offers to the conflicts. These guys are just kind of like boilerplate minions, Like even like comparing him to like Arlong's subordinates, like Hachi and Chu and Kurubi each had distinct personalities from each other, While these guys, you could, like, switch their personalities and not much would change. Like, Chess is a little goofier, I guess, because he kind of was there at the beginning of the arc. But, like, yeah, they don't stand out a lot.
I do really like this panel of Luffy, like, he gets blasted with a cannon, and he's just there holding the flag still.
Oh, yeah, that was really cool. Yeah.
Oh, but Nami's jacket got ripped. That won't come back up later.
Fucking Nami. Well, because I like how, like... Because Luffy likes cool shit. And, like when he saw Chopper, like, setting up his hooves, he was like, beam! He's gonna shoot a beam! He's gonna shoot a laser beam! Like, no. Obviously not. But, like, Luffy likes cool shit. Like, compare this to, like I guess with Kabaji and Zoro, he wanted to see Zoro fight. But even that, like, I guess. But he didn't seem as into it as he was in this one. So it's like, of course Luffy would be distracted. And Wapol is kind of a joke. So, like, he's not paying full attention to him until after the fight ends. And he's like, where'd Wapol go? And yeah, because like I said, it's not as much of a fight. It's more of like, I love the interaction with Wapol and Nami where I'm not a pirate, I'm just a young girl, and she just keeps walking. He's like, and he chases her, and then he eats himself, because his devil fruit is fucking weird. It's just like lots of cool little interactions, like Nami, what did you do to my jacket? Oh, you can pay me 3 times its value plus interest. That's 100,000 berries. With her fucking face. She's just a schemy. Nami's so good.
And I do like the interaction where Chopper says, I may not have many friends, but I can fight. And then Luffy says, you have a friend right here. And then he launches himself at the guys. And he's like, I'm your friend.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're way behind, bro.
You're like jumping way ahead, and I'm losing you.
We already talked about the Chopper fight, and you're just like still flipping through the earlier pages. Like if you want, no, it's fine. Keep going, and then if you have just catch up. And if you have something to say, then say it. Well, if you notice it in the pages.
It's more like I was ready to jump ahead, or like I was expecting we would jump ahead, but then you did it before I was ready, and now I'm like, oh no, now I gotta catch up. Although I did like the part
I said, if you notice something.
I don't even remember, like, we must have missed it earlier, but the part where, because Luffy's already got the jacket, but the point where, like, they're gonna start the fight, and Luffy runs back inside to, like, because Sanji's like, aren't you cold? And he's like, oh, it's cold. and then he has to run back in to get the jacket.
Oh,
and then
the gag again.
See, because I really wanted to point this out, because like he sees Nami, or Nami sees him come in, and she's like, "Oh, what's the noise outside? What's going on?" He's like, "Oh, just a fight." And she's like, "Oh, is it important? Is anything major happening?" He's like, "Nah, go back to sleep." And she's just like, "Okay."
Yeah, that's true. Because again, like Luffy doesn't give a fuck, and Wapol's been proven as not a serious threat. So of course he'd say that.
And then they go up to the weapons room, and there's where we get the zoom in on Wapol's just face.
Oh, now you're ahead. A little bit, yes, because like Luffy, Wapol gets his key stolen. Well, because of course Nami would just snatch a key because she's just like a natural fucking thief, and Wapol's like, "Behind this door are weapons. I will defeat you with these weapons." And well, I love the panel where it's just like Luffy's just staring, and Wapol's just staring, and he's just like so like done with this shit, and Luffy's just. And then he just runs away again. And then, they get to the cannon. And he's like, "I'll beat you up with this cannon." But no, it's the castle's in such disrepair, it doesn't work. And the zoom, the Wapol's legendary expression. Like, I've seen this used as a reaction image on 4chan a lot because it's just so... Yeah, it's so good. Like, it's just the big eyes and this the closed mouth. It's just like, he's just like oh,
like,
no.
Just seeing that, it just looked very... Yeah, I would have been surprised if this had not been... a meme at any point, because it's too memey. Like the zoom, that's a modern day meme classic right there. Like that's
exactly.
See, I feel like sometimes perfect. One Piece's humor is very like, oh, if we are louder, then it's funnier, and like obviously in manga, that's not necessarily as much of a problem, but like you see people screaming in all caps and like big bold expressions. And like sometimes like the jokes just aren't particularly funny, but it's fine because it's a manga and it just flies by. So I could feel like if you're watching this in the animated form, sometimes One Piece like just moments happen. Like earlier when Luffy and Usopp were like building snowmen and it like blocked the view of the window and Sanji's like, "I'm gonna kill you" or something, but he's just like screaming and I'm like, it's not that funny. Just being louder doesn't make it funny, but just with we've said it before. Oda's got good comedic timing and good comedic paneling, like just the expressions and the
right. Well, and I
and the look.
Yeah, and I guess since you mentioned the anime, like there's the risk of stretching out the joke and making it too long, which sometimes a longer joke, like making it longer, can be fun. That's the thing about humor is it's very subjective. Where it's like, if it makes you laugh, it's a good joke, right? Like that's like you can argue the structure of a joke, but the point of it is to be funny. So I don't know how do you objectively rate humor? Like you could objectively describe what type of humor it is. Like it's dark humor, it's visual humor, but like what matters is if it's funny. And you also say it's like you can't explain the joke and have it still be funny. So it's like pointing out and saying it's funny doesn't make it funnier. So it's humor is like pretty much all we can do is say like that made me laugh or whatever. So but Dalton is going up to fight Wapol. He's ready to give up his life just to save the island. He's so afraid of like despair that he's willing to kill himself. Like, so that's some resolve, I suppose. But yeah, he doesn't care about royalty. It's just he just wants that fucker gone. But of course Luffy's got his back. Because he's just like Wapol is just like fucking putty in his hands. Like Luffy is just not having any of that bullshit. Oh, and the little moments of Vivi really connecting to Dalton. Because Dalton cares about the country, even though he's not a king, and Vivi is royalty, so yeah, good.
See, well, during the fight, this actually sort of answers a question that I had in the last chapter, where I'd said, like, oh, Luffy couldn't, like, scratch his nose because he couldn't stretch his fingers, why is that? But, like, here you very clearly see him, like, he's stretching his fingers to, like, block, Wapol's, like, giant jaw attack thing. But, like, as he's doing that, like, he's got one hand on his arm, so he's, like, using, like, you can see him, like, very clearly, like, using a lot of force to stretch his fingers. So, like, that answers the question of, like, why couldn't he do it before?
It's Wapol, the force is because Wapol is resisting him and his fingers are stretching. Yeah, and he's even bracing his arm, like, to make sure it's steady. Like, Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, Luffy does need it. Like, that's why it's not, like, because you wondered if it's a spoiler. It's not really a spoiler. It's just something you need to pay attention to the mechanics to really get. Because it's told visually. It's never explained to the audience. You have to see how Luffy moves to really understand that he's not, like, a Mr. Fantastic or a Plastic Man. You know, his powers are not, like, his powers don't work like that. So, but it's also weird to, like, mentally imagine how... Because he's not rubber. His muscles are just like rubber. His bones are like he still has organs and bones and muscles, but it's all rubber. So yeah, I got you though. But yeah, Luffy knocks. I love how he knocks Wapol through the roof, and like he's underneath the flag that he disrespected. Like Wapol being a king, like he's still lower than the ideas that he tramps on. Like because Luffy's willing to fight for those ideas, and But even, like, as he's, like, being defeated, like, he's trying to, like, I'll give you status and medals and rewards, and then, how about I make you Vice King? Like, even to the end, he's not willing to give up his status as king. Like, he refuses to give up his, like, they're both kind of similar in that they refuse to give up their freedom, but Wapol's, he cut himself off from everyone, and Luffy's the strongest, so, and he gets, wrecked. And it's cool. Final thoughts on Luffy versus Wapol?
Yeah, I did like that final moment there where he sort of tries to like leverage his status, but even at the end, like he still prizes his status. He values that over everything else, and that's
exactly.
That's why he loses.
Oh, and of course Luffy sees Zoro, and he thinks they're bad guys, so he attacks them, and jumps down. Oh yeah, so Dalton thanks Luffy for saving the country. And also sees Chopper, and he bows to Chopper for helping the fight too. But Usopp sees him, and the villagers see him, and they're like, monster, and which is like Chopper's like, Chopper's a good monster. Like Luffy even hits Usopp for being a dummy. Like he's our new crewmate. Shut up. But Chopper's touchy. I like the bit where Sanji and Nami are trying to run, but Kureha kicks down a castle wall to get to them. Go back to the infirmary. Like, holy shit. Kureha might have been able to beat up Wapol herself. No, I don't know about that, but she's definitely tough. Like, she's not a normal person. Kicking down a castle wall is not a normal thing to do. Oh, and then, of course, like, I love how, like, things work out where, like, Nami stole the key, and she's able to leverage that to pay for all their doctory expenses. And, of course, how that comes back with the cannons that she got from the weapons storage. Oh, and I love how after she takes the key, she's like, my code is in the drawer, I don't have any guards posted, and Sanji's treatment is complete, so don't try to sneak away. Kureha's so good. I love her. Oh, and then Luffy finally approaches Chopper, and Chopper, he so obviously wants to go. Like, he's even says, like, you guys can come back, and but he's just like, he's a monster. He's not a human. He can't go with the humans. And Luffy doesn't give a fuck because it's Luffy. So he's just shut up and come with us. And that's what Chopper needed to hear. He needed, Zoro's even skeptic is like, yeah, that'll change his mind, but it works. Chopper just like, Luffy's ready to accept him. He doesn't care, and Sanji already like broke down a bit of a barrier. Like Luffy's a monster too. It's good. Chopper's
yeah,
cute
I really like that about Chopper's character, especially like in this moment, because like he's got like, well, I want to do this, but he like makes all these excuses as like why he can't, and like that's a very relatable thing, because like it's like he wants to do it, but he's insecure and he doesn't think he can. And then Luffy's just like, "Oh, just shut up and do it." And then he's like,
"Right." Like I actually have a friend who's kind of like that, where he's like, he's always like, he has trouble doing stuff because he's always thinking about like, well, that, and then so he actually like for a brief period moved over to the East Coast because someone pushed him to do something, and he liked that about her because she was able to be decisive where he wasn't, and that's kind of what's going on here. Luffy's able to be decisive where Chopper won't, Yeah,
because that's who Luffy is. Luffy isn't. Luffy's not a man who thinks. Luffy's a man who acts.
Exactly. And then, you get the bit after that because it's also reverse Baratier in a way. Well, no, I guess it isn't really, but it's like it's similar. Well, because it also reminds me of the Coby thing, where because Chopper goes to Kureha and because she told Nami that like go please take him. But then once Chopper comes in, she's like, "No, you can't leave." She's getting pissed. "You're my only assistant. What? I've helped you so much, and you don't have any gratitude." Like, because that's the thing is like it's very similar with the Coby thing. Because Chopper is so weak-willed that like Kureha pushing, like she's making sure that he has the resolve to actually leave. And she's putting up a last resistance and throwing fucking axes at him, and knives. But no, Chopper he is finally resolved. Like he's ready to leave, and it's good. And she even points out like, who heard of a seagoing reindeer? But he's a reindeer, but he's also a man, and it's good.
But then there's also a bit of an ulterior motive for Kureha because she says she doesn't like tearful farewells, and then you get the panel.
Yes. Kureha is very good. And I also love the chase sequence, like they're like moving the cannons and Chopper runs through and there's just more knives and everyone's like, oh fuck, knives, dodging. Oh man. And then of course Chopper jumps on and they're like, run. And Kureha mentions the dreams, but no, the doctor's research was completed. He doesn't have a reason to stay and he's got to go find his own, cure-all for everything. And they run down the mountain, and you get a big them going over the full moon. And I was mentioning the moon phases earlier. This is what I was thinking of. Oh boy, but yeah, the Straw Hats escape. And Kureha cries, as you mentioned earlier. She doesn't like tearful farewells. And then we get a good moment where Kureha fires the powder from the cannons, and you get a big old goodbye in the form of a giant cherry blossom tree over the mountains that happen to look like tree trunks, to cure the heart of the country. And it's good. It's good.
Oh, now I see it. Like I didn't notice that paneling the very first time I read it. Oh my god.
The funny thing is, apparently there was an interview. It was actually a coincidence. Like he did not draw those mountains expecting them to be like a tree trunk, but it came about like during the arc, and it just worked really well. And apparently the pink snow is inspired by actual phenomena in where with like iron, it makes red. I think it was in an SBS, probably in a later volume. Just make sure to read them. But yeah, it's good.
No. The pink snow is a really nice touch. I love that sort of like to cap off the.
See, this would probably work really well in like the anime or the colored version of the manga because that's the thing with manga is there's no color. Like honestly, one thing I wish I see more authors do is because like they get their color pages, and in fact, even what about this chapter?
But like usually what I've noticed with like Oda, or it might not just be an Oda thing, that might be just in general, but like I've noticed. Because obviously, like, in my volume releases, well, in the volume releases, they're black and white. But, like, you can tell that they are full-color pages, just because of the shading. But, like, most of the time, it's, like, chapter covers, and, like, a single page, maybe.
Well, because sometimes, sometimes he'll have the big 2-page spreads. Other times he'll have, like you said, the first page of the chapter and the title page. But what I've almost now, like the only time I've seen it is in my printing of Pluto, where there's some parts in the middle of a chapter where the pages are colored, and I'm like wondering, like, would he, if say this chapter had a 2-page spread, would he be able to get it so that just those pages were
generally
colored, like the two midway through the chapter?
Well, generally it's always like at the beginning of the chapter, but like this is at the very end.
Exactly.
So like, end the chapter with the color pages. That would be kind of, if it was possible.
Like I'm wondering, like I it would be cool if he could wrangle with Jump to get that, if possible. Like if it's more impactful that way, because I've always wondered if that's a thing that some author has done, where they don't just have it at the beginning of the page. Because I remember there was an arc in Bakuman where they're actually like they're trying to do something interesting with the color pages because they have them. But I don't think they put it in the middle of the chapter. And because I've also had that idea in mind since actually it was Your Lie in April, because the color is also kind of like referenced a lot, and like the series starts with the main character, the world is colorful when you're in love, and then but there's no real at least not in the anime. There wasn't a major amount of contrast between, like, it was only colorful before he saw the main girl, and then so it's like it could have been like more desaturated before, and then the colors became like it's something in using the medium to add to the story. Like maybe the manga was like that because I only read the volume releases, but like yeah, and I would like to see something like that here too, where it's like because the color is important, it uses the medium to show that, you know. Obviously that wouldn't translate to a printed volume, especially not the Jump ones, which are always black and white. But yeah, I'd still like to see it at some point, something like that. And if anyone has any examples of color pages partway through the chapter, not at just the front, but yeah. So anyway, the Straw Hats sail off with their new crewmate, the Dr. Chopper, and we see Dalton and Correa again, and they're just sort of commenting on it, and we get. Okay, this is why I was saying that. Oh yeah, because during the fight, Wapol mentions the world government, which is basically they're the entity that they're above all the kings, and the Marines are the military of the world government. Basically, like he mentions to Luffy, like, you can't attack me, you'll have the whole world government after you, and Luffy doesn't care, of course. And then here you get oh yeah, we didn't think about it until he was gone, but this guy who was pursuing Blackbeard came by, and he mentioned the Straw Hat and the bounty poster. So you have this mysterious figure called Ace looking for Luffy. And then right after that, Kureha asks Dalton if he's heard of Gold D. Roger, because you were asking about the D initial earlier, and here it comes up again for some reason. Though I do love the Ace thing, because like he seems like so like he's all in shadow and he's wearing black and he's all cool and mysterious, but then he's like, hey, catch that guy! He didn't pay for his food, and he like runs away.
Of course, this is one of the plot details that I have obviously been spoiled on, so I know who Ace is, but I'm not gonna say it just in case no one else knows. Okay,
that's nice. Or so no one, yeah, someone was also reading along, but it's just like seriously, rereading this arc, I was really surprised that like this is the arc in my mind, like rereading it, where like the world really starts to expand because we see the Council of Kings, the world government gets mentioned, Goldie Roger, Ace, Blackbeard, like Dragon the Revolutionary, like all these things that are like hinting at more stuff to come, and it's just like. It's crazy. It's just to look back and see all this stuff first being mentioned here. Like, this is where the series really starts to get bigger. If you didn't think it was already like a grand adventure as is. So did you have any other thoughts for on the drum stuff, like with Dalton and Kureha talking?
No, other than I just thought it was really interesting that, again, you're getting more, like, you already said it, setting up all those details, but like doing it, like introducing it here at the tail end of this arc. Like, I love when stories do that.
Yeah.
Like I made my video about Hunter x Hunter about like how the events in the story all just kind of naturally flow into one another. And One Piece is doing that, is very much so doing that as well, and I like that.
Yeah. So anyway, back on the ship, we find out what's been happening to Karoo the whole time. He fell in the water and got frozen. And Chopper can communicate with him, so he finds out that it's Zoro's fault because he was trying to save Zoro. And he does his gag where he gets complimented, and he's cute and dodgy about it. Oh yeah, and Kureha already had his medical supplies on the sled, so she was expecting him to leave. And it's a party, and Chopper's, it's the most fun I've ever had, and Chopper's he's finally with a family, a big family.
I love the big panel where, like, Usopp is giving a toast, but also you've got the this is again where just Oda, again, having a lot going on in a single panel. Like, you've got Vivi talking with Karoo. You've got Zoro and Sanji bickering. You've got Nami talking to Chopper in the corner. You've got Luffy talking about, meat, talking to Sanji. Like, there's so much going on just in that one panel. And then the rest of the page, of course, just sort of building on that. It's good. It's really good.
The character interactions in the paneling and everyone just is good.
And then, what's this? Meanwhile, back on Little Garden. Oh, it's Mr. 2.
Yep. We get his full design. He is a crazy looking dude. Like, this is where the designs are starting to get even, weird. Like I said, Wapol was already pretty weird, but like, look at this motherfucker.
I was about to say flamingo, but I think that's a swan. I think that's what those birds are.
I believe it is a swan. Yes.
Can't be flamingos. That's not.
Yep. So he's heading back to Alabasta full speed. We cut back to All Sunday, and Sir Crocodile. And they are heroes to the masses. Mysterious build-up in the next chapter. But for now, we are done with Drum and Little Garden. So, final thoughts on the Drum arc.
This is, we've had some trouble in the past, trying to figure out, where the arcs... I mean, so far we haven't had much trouble figuring out, where arcs and other stories break off.
For me, it's been a little easier, but...
with One Piece, here you have, I said it earlier, you have, arcs within arcs. So it's, how the hell do you structure this? How do you break it apart?
Yeah, no, I understand. Especially later on, there's gonna be arcs where arcs you can't separate. Because when I say my favorite arc in One Piece, it's technically 2 because you can't separate the arcs. One leads into the other. Like I said last time, it would be like trying to separate the Palace Invasion and the Chimera Ant arc, or the Android Saga and the Cell Saga. It's the same shit. You can't separate it.
Well, because the thing with that,
how do you have an arc ranking?
Well, because the thing with is Chimera Ant is very obviously one arc. Or I guess the trickiest thing that we've sort of kind of dealt with thus far would be what we classified as the Hebi arc, where it's it's three different things happening, but it's all sort of tied together by the Sasuke Itachi stuff.
Yeah, but because the issue is you have the Jiraiya stuff in the Hebi arc, and then you have the Sasuke stuff with Killer Bee in the Pain arc. So you have because it goes back and forth so much that it's not. But obviously, the Hebi arc makes the most sense because it starts with Hebi being formed. Sure, Jiraiya's in there, but it ends with Hebi being disbanded and Taka being formed. And the Pain arc starts with Naruto learning about Jiraiya, and then it goes into, him, confronting Jiraiya's death through pain. So it's even though Sasuke and Killer Bees are there, that's definitely the weirdest one. Though, how would you, or do you want me to rank my arcs first, or do you have an arc ranking? Do you even have an arc ranking, or?
Is this just how we're gonna handle One Piece? As we just continuously rank it as we go? Because I know you.
I mean, I have an arc ranking, so we can. The characters is gonna be arc rankings is gonna be easier for me because I've been thinking about it for a while. But characters is gonna be really fucking hard. How do I just choose 5?
I think I'm actually
my list is already X amount of Straw Hats big. I have 5 side characters I could pick without picking any Straw Hats. So because I would say going from bottom to top, I would say Kuro, Buggy, Romance Dawn, that hasn't changed. Laboon and Whiskey Peak I count together, so that would be right above Romance Dawn. Then I would probably put Little Garden because it was good. But still. Then I would put Baradier because Baradier is also good. Then I'd probably put Drum just barely under Arlong because Arlong I would still say is my favorite arc so far. But Drum was really good. It still made me cry twice. Chopper's really good. Yeah. So do you have any thoughts on where you'd put Drum or Little Garden relative to other arcs?
I think I'm going to dodge this question today because I don't remember what my arc ranking was previously. So I'll just...
I think our arc ranking for the first 3 was the same. Romance Dawn over Buggy over Kuro. And I think it was probably the same for Arlong and Baradier. I think you liked Baradier more than any of the Romance Dawn. But, and Arlong above anything else. So that point. I don't remember where you put Laboon / Whiskey Peak or Logtown. Oh, I didn't even rank Logtown. Fuck! Where is it? I don't know yet. Never mind. So yeah, my ranking's not even complete. I just write it down somewhere and figure it out at some point. If I were you, just so you're not scrambling to figure one out.
Yeah,
on the last
that's what I was thinking. Is I'll start preparing it now, so I'm ready for next time.
Yes, and maybe notable characters too for the top 5 of those. So yeah. But anyway, so again, we're not doing it until I guess the last episode of this stretch of chapters. Though of course, when arcs end in One Piece, we will be going back to them in between blocks. Because I kind of solidified our plan for blocks. How it's gonna go is between blocks we choose we catch up to any arcs that have ended if there's enough chapters to read. So how it's gonna go is we're gonna finish One Piece and that'll be the end of the big 3 block. But there were no previous blocks, so because I do want to read Boruto eventually. So how we're gonna do it is we're gonna do the old school block with the series we've already picked. We'll have people vote towards the end of One Piece, and then we're probably gonna do Boruto for just an episode before we go into the new school block, which will be more recent series, and then if the current arc in One Piece is over, like we're not gonna do like this seems like halfway through the arc. We'll just even though it's still ongoing, we're just gonna go here. But no, like I'm gonna wait until the current arc is over, and then I will decide how the episodes will be structured for when we return to it. And maybe we'll do it with Boruto. Maybe we'll do it in between a future block. It depends on how much we've read, and because we have the next 3 blocks on New School, Old School, and one I'm not saying. But that's how it's going to be structured. So, or Old School, then New School, then the secret one. But we have the next few series we're going to read in mind. And then after that, it'll be more fair game, and I have no idea what we're going to pick, if we're even still doing the Nen Show. Because I do have a job now. I'm employed. I start tomorrow. Today's Wednesday. Yeah, I start tomorrow, orientation and training.
Hey, and you got the call during the call. So live on the Nen Show, Craftsdwarf gets hired. It's a job.
I'd already been hired, but I did get a call from work
I'm
during the call.
Well, I'm going to twist this narrative the way I want it. So there we go.
But I did get Wednesdays off, so we should be able to still record on Wednesday. So just saying. Anyway. So yeah, that's what's going on with me. The Nen Show should still continue. This is our last 2 episodes in a row for a while. So anyone who is complaining about the last episode being too short, fuck you. Here's the longest episode we have so far. You're fucking welcome.
I don't know. Wasn't the Arlong one pretty long?
Arlong was 317. This one is currently at 328, give or take. So it's roughly the same length, if not a little longer. I don't know how long it'll go when I cut stuff out. So, thank you for listening to another long episode, and next time it's probably going to be just as long, even though it's one arc, because it's the biggest arc in the series so far, with the most build-up, because we've been building up to it since Laboon and Whiskey Peak, so it's like, it's the climax of the saga, and it's going to be a big one. Alabasta, next time, thank you for listening. I will see you next time. Mathwiz, say goodbye.
Okay, bye-bye. And I'm just gonna steal your thunder, because I'm pretty sure the Baratier Arlong episode we were at like 3.5 before we stopped, so pretty sure this is gonna be shorter.